It's Friday, and I'm welcoming you to Namaste Today Live. We are streaming live right now on all of our social media platforms: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, X.com, and now Instagram. My name is Christopher Witecki. I'm your Sensei to Serious Joy. I'm a psychic astrologer, a very fierce and focused light worker here on Earth, and I'm here to help you raise your vibration and come into your higher self and the star that you really are. It's a pleasure to be here today. If you're in our super chat, say hello to everyone and tell us where you are coming from. I'm just going to have to move my camera down here. It is being a little obnoxious. Hello, loves. Hello, Michelle Bell. Hello, Ina Kelly. I always stall on that one. Hello, Neat Too. Pretty Neat Too. Hi, Tina. Hi, Heidi in North Carolina. Hello, SF Girl in Florida. Hello, the organizer advisor. Hello. That sounds organized. Hello, Sandra. So nice to see you. Christina Kelly. Nice to see you. Yakish Murray in the UK. Well, hello. So nice to see you. And we'll do one more. Mindy is in Colorado. Yay, that's where I am. And organic skincare. Hello. Nice to see everyone tonight, folks. How you feeling? We're in the crazy spin of Pisces right now. That new moon knocked me on my ASTRO. How about you? It was pretty intense, that 20-degree new moon that happened on Sunday. I'm between timelines, and we have a lot of energy happening this week. This is the last week of Pisces and the first week of the rest of your life. I'm super excited to report the details to you. Some of the highlights in tonight's show: the sun will conjunct Neptune on Sunday, officially launching your new destiny. The sun enters Aries Tuesday night, just before midnight East Coast time. So that's when shift will start to hit the fan. And Mars enters into Pisces next Friday, which is going to lighten some of that Aries load. And tonight on Astro Mingle, I don't know where I was going there. There's a second line I was about to read. Western medicine has gone light worker. Our guest tonight on Astro Mingle, holistic healer, psychiatry, and psychoanalyst, Dr. Judy Tsafrir, is here to discuss her off-script practice of using shamanism, energy healing, tarot cards, astrology, and more in her private practice and approach to psychiatric care. It's actually a light worker gone away from Western medicine and a new incorporation. I'm excited to talk to her about how she has boldly stepped away from the formals of Western medicine and adopted some of our neck of the woods. But before we dive into all those amazing topics, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is from Saturday, March 16th to Friday, March 22nd, 2024. Looking ahead at the weekend forecast, over the weekend we are basically wrapping up your new karmic timeline and committing to a new destiny. Let's dive deep. On Saturday, it's sunny and calculating. Step 26 means that Saturn is ruling the day. It'll be a rather serious day. You're ready to commit to your new destiny, and you're going to feel through the strategy. With the moon in Gemini, you are feeling and thinking about that future. On Sunday, it's sunny and sacred. Step 27 means Mars rules the day, so you are feeling the energy to move forward, and what you're moving forward on is the new destiny. That's because the sun conjoins Neptune, connecting heaven to earth and feeling the moral code. This is the first day you launch your new spiritual timeline, and with the moon in Cancer, you are feeling the inner change. Moving ahead to the 5-day weekday forecast. Over the week ahead, we wrap up and test the sun in Pisces and then dive into the sun in Aries, meaning that spring is around the corner. On Monday, it's sunny and receptive. Step 28 indicates that Earth rules the day, so you are manifesting your spiritual transformation and holding space for things to stay on path. With Mercury conjoining the North Node, your mind is also surrendering to the path of least resistance, and with the moon in Cancer, you're feeling your friends and neighbors. On Tuesday, it's sunny and empathetic. Step 29 means Chiron rules the day, so you may be tested on any karmic lesson you learned over the last month of Pisces. Venus in Pisces will oppose Juno in Virgo, which means you will reconcile your new spiritual direction with reality and practices. And the moon moves from Cancer to Leo, so feelings will shift to the heart. And just before midnight East Coast time, the sun enters into Aries. On Wednesday, hump day, it's sunny and sincere. Step 0 Aries means that Pluto rules the day. You're going to draw a line between the old and new. And by old and new, we mean the old me go with the new me go. You're ready to commit to the change. And with Mercury conjoining Chiron, your mind is facing the last time you tried to change. With the moon in Leo, however, you are feeling your heart and courage. On Thursday, it's cloudy and creative. Step 1 means the sun is the ruler of the day. You are aligning the me-go with the heart and accepting your new role. The sun will also sextile Pluto, calling for you to align your me-go with your own self-love initiative. And Venus conjoins Saturn, meaning you're opening up now to a new spiritual integrity within. The moon in the high degrees of Leo has you daydreaming about personal dreams. And then on Friday, it's sunny and hyper-aware. Step 2 means the moon is the ruling planet today, and the moon is in Virgo, so you are feeling everything, the details and everything under the sun. You are also feeling the new me-go, and perhaps the cracks that need to be fixed. We recommend you respond, but not react, and Mars enters into Pisces, which means the ego starts to chill out.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.
If you're watching on YouTube, please be kind and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Serious Joy TV. Hit the bell button so you're notified. And if you don't mind, please like this video right now if you're watching, so the YouTube algorithm will suggest other people who enjoy astrology to our fabulous family here and our show. It's always a pleasure to be here every week, folks. And this week, we have a very interesting sponsor. We are now being sponsored this week by the Unite the Light Festival. We're doing a Unite the Light Summit happening here in Austin, Texas. It's a Lightworker Summit. It'll be on May 18th and May 19th, 2024. I have a lot to say about this, but I'll just say this real quickly. We realized a long time ago that all the evil people get together in the world and always plan evil. Why don't the good light workers get together once a year and plan the light? That's what this Lightworker Summit is going to be. It's going to be at the Renaissance Austin in Austin, Texas. The themes of this show is going to be, let's co-create. We want to get together with all the light workers in the country, as many that can come that we can fit, of course. We do have a limit. And we're going to be providing inspiration. You'll be along like-minded thinkers. You'll be able to network with other people who are in the same business as you. We're going to create a constitution of ethics and tenets. We're going to provide inside tips and tricks, solution models. We'll have lots of referrals, leads, technology insights, tips and tricks. We're doing a special gala dinner, an enchanted dinner Saturday night. It's going to be all day Saturday and Sunday. The first day is a show and tell day. The next day is a panelist question and answer day. There are 2 tiers of tickets. There's a general love ticket, which gets you in both days. And then there's a VIP Love Plus ticket that invites you to the enchanted dinner and gives you VIP seats in the front rows of the demonstration. Now, we don't have the website up yet for it, but we do have a pre-sales website up for people who are in the family, which is you. We do have limited amounts of tickets. It is definitely locked in the 18th and 19th. It's going to be a blast. I cannot wait to hang out with a lot of people. We have a lot of interesting guests that will be at the show. I am not ready to announce who those are yet. This is really about coming together as a lightworker community, starting to come together on certain ideas, for us to support each other, for us to network with each other. I will be there. The entire Serious Joy crew will be there. Robbie Hunt, Kristen Ryder, Joe Zammit, I don't think can make it yet. She's coming from Australia, but all of your favorites. And of course, we'll be there for 2 days to hang out. It's going to be a blast. And we chose Austin because the eclipse is going through Austin, sort of blessing Austin the month before. And Austin's become an intelligentsia center for lightworkers. If you don't know, there's so many podcasters and lightworkers who've moved to Austin, Texas. It's Austin, Texas on the May 18th and 19th. I chose that day because the sun conjuncts Jupiter on Saturday and Venus conjuncts Uranus. You can't have a better birth date or better fortune. If you'd like to get pre-sale tickets right now, you can reserve your seat by going to unitethelight.love, unitethelight.love, or go to seriousjoy.cloud. It's the same place. Purchase your ticket. You'll have your seat reserved. We do have limited VIP Love Plus tickets. We do have a larger amount of the general love tickets, and it's going to be a blast. So go ahead and book your travel, book your stay. I can't wait to give you a hug and see you on that weekend. So, without further ado, and the excitement coming up around the corner, let's move on to our planets and transits. Welcome to Planets and Transits. The sun is now in Pisces, and we are wrapping up our Pisces season. This has been a very unique season. I've been talking about it really for the last 3.5, almost 4 weeks. And I'll just get into it real quickly because I have some other exciting stuff to talk about in tonight's lecture. I have so much to talk about. I don't think I'm going to have enough time, frankly. But in essence, first of all, the world is changing right now. How difficult was it? I want to see in the comments or in the chat rather, because I am watching. How difficult was this Pisces transit for you guys? For me, it was pretty tough. We were, it's not on Serious Joy TV site, y'all. It is on the seriousjoy.cloud, seriousjoy.cloud. I'm looking at the comments. So, anyways, it's been a tough month because we've been asked to sort of face our karma that we've had with ourselves since the day we were born. I saw it in the planets that it was going to be that way because Saturn has entered into Pisces. So just to reiterate, we have Neptune very high up in Pisces. I didn't ask for a thumbs up there, Apple. And we have Saturn about 11, 12 degrees in Pisces. And so because these two outer planets are in the space of Pisces, we are in this place where we're being called to process our karma. Neptune opening the door of what's possible, a higher level of what's possible. Saturn forcing us to cut the baggage and the lower form. Saturn entered into Pisces last year in March of 2023. Neptune entered into Pisces in 2012. So really since 2012, we have been enlightened and opened up and realizing what our karmic patterns are. And so we've been noticing the patterns. As of last March, we had the responsibility to face those karmic patterns. And so now that Saturn's been in Pisces for a year, by the time the sun hit Pisces, I had an idea, and I was right, that this will be when we finally let go and do our purge. And indeed, that's been the case. I've been talking to many clients I privately consult. Our karma issues have come up. Even I've had all my karmic issues have come up. Fear of letting people down, fear of dropping the ball, all these different things. I just had to continue showing up for myself and proving myself that this transit and this theme was over. Now, what's interesting is we also have Pluto in Aquarius, which is raising the vibration of our lower frequencies. And what that does is Pluto kills off the low vibes basically on the planet. And what that does is raise the vibe to a higher vibe, gives us higher capability by killing off the low. So when you put these two together, a couple of things happens. One, we are released with the Pisces energy from our old karmic timeline. So the karma you were born with, whether that was low self-esteem or the world out to get you, or you're the black sheep in the family, or, whatever that might be, whatever your karma might be, you now have enough wherewithal to start responding to yourself and treating yourself as if that karma doesn't exist, to just go ahead and let it pass you by. The second aspect, because of Pluto in the low degrees of Aquarius, is that what's possible for our ceiling of frequency is opening up to a higher level. Like the Earth, let's say the Earth could only go to channel 10 before. Now the Earth can go to like channel 15. Now there have always been special people who can channel those higher frequencies, but the masses at large didn't have access to these higher frequencies. And I have been getting a ton of great feedback from my clients in one-on-one consultations because people are starting to tell me they're having dreams about Atlantis. Oh my goddess. And I knew this would happen. I knew it, and I'm so glad I was right. And that really, as I'm uncovering, is the source of our original wound. Now, I don't know where your belief structure is about Atlantis. I respect everyone's beliefs, but I'm just going to share what I happen to know, my heart happens to know. I do have memories of Atlantis. I was raised by a father who talked about how he was in Atlantis and what he did. So I had a very unconventional childhood. And then as I went through my young 20s and early 30s, I kept getting readings and people kept telling me, you're in Atlantis. Your father was in Atlantis. And so I was like, okay, I didn't quite believe it until I had my own memories. And then in my late 30s, early 40s, I began to actually have visions and imprints of my life in Atlantis. And the reason why this is so important is because Lemuria and Atlantis are the original sin, basically. They're the original wound. And I'm going to talk about Atlantis. We're going to talk more about Atlantis as the year unfolds. But it was Atlantis. Atlantis was created. I don't know if y'all know this, but as the myth goes, the human race was apparently enslaved by the Anunnaki. That's what the story says. So the story says the human race was enslaved by the Anunnaki. We had our genes sort of cut so that we'd be just slaves, workers, and sex workers. And then one Anunnaki leader sort of defied all the other Anunnaki and took a group of humans and migrated to Atlantis for a promise of a better land. This is what the story is, from what I understand. And then apparently we had intergalactic connection to all sorts of alien races. And apparently 12 different strands of DNA races came down to Atlantis and created 12 tribes or 12 families. Each family came from a different alleged star code of a different alien species. And so Atlantis was this United States, basically, of alien genetics that were hybrided with human genetics. Again, I don't know if this is true. I'm just saying this is what I feel and resonate with, and this is what I've been told. Then all these people started getting together and having babies, and that created the 13th race, which is the human race as we know it now. Now, this is an interesting line of story, because Atlantis allegedly was this pure sort of utopia society for several thousand years until we started having dark alien agendas starting to infiltrate into Atlantis. And some of these dark alien agendas were manipulating the genetic code, using genetics to create sex and work slaves, dumbing down people and turning them off of their third eye, putting pollutants into the food supply so that people didn't have access to their higher selves. Sound familiar? That's because this was the original time that we had dark energies take over our race. And so it's a long story. I'm just putting out there the very quick Reader's Digest in a shopping line version. But basically, the dark energies overtook the government. They blew themselves up and they screwed up the genetic code. Everyone fled to the rest of the world, and all the Atlantis intelligence went to the rest of the world. The reason why this is so important is because the wounds that we have been clearing in Pisces are actually the wounds we made as an echo from our Atlantis wound and our Lemuria wound. Now, Lemuria is a whole nother story. It was Atlantis that destroyed Lemuria in a war. Atlantis was very aggressive and warlike when they got into their later states or later progressions of who they were. But the point is that when you have certain karma from like the Middle Ages, or you have certain karma from, being a warrior or a fighter, or being cast out of the system of Egypt, all these wounds that we have been facing in the Pisces season from Neptune in Pisces and Saturn in Pisces ultimately comes from the fact that we made those wounds in our life as a reflection of our Atlantis Lemuria life. So the wounds we are clearing are the echo wounds of the original sin, or the original wound, which is Atlantis. And what I think is happening now, this is just my theory I'm throwing out there, I'm going way big picture about this tonight in tonight's show, is that I believe that the United States and its incarnation 250 years ago, basically, with the forefathers, those forefathers, I believe, were mainly Atlantean. I believe they were trying to set up a new Atlantis, which is where all the different races and all the different gene codes come to create a new race together, one that gets along with individuality and freedom and the right to privacy and the right to speech and all these different rights. To me, that was the rebirth of a new Atlantis. Fast forward to this life, fast forward to this year. This year, and this is from what I'm seeing, this is all from Pluto and Aquarius. What we have now in this lifetime is we have the reincarnated people of both sides of the Atlantis conflict. I believe we have the people who were on the good side of Atlantis, and we have the people who were on the negative side of Atlantis. And those people are in power right now on Earth. I believe that this is Earth's second go at trying to create a utopian society. That's where we happen to be. And the friction that we feel right now in society is really at a very, very deep level the good guys who want to come back and make it good again, or the white hats, and the ones who are dark who want to come back and have decided they want a slave economy and a slave society. Now, I bring all this up because I know it's really out there, but I've been waiting to talk about it for a long time because this week you are setting your destiny for the future. You are going to create what the way is. What is the way? And I wanted to offer some deeper possibilities of what might be going on under the seams because, the drama of Earth as we know it, with countries and economies and the World Bank and the pharmaceuticals, all these creations of our consciousness, I believe are a subconscious echo of our ancient karma. So the fact that we have businesses that take advantage, the fact that we have do-good organizations, the fact that we have, psychics and mystics and wizards and light workers that heal through sound, that is all a reflection of Atlantis. And I believe this life, the life you were born to live, this is the moment where Earth will either do one more round of the Atlantis because Atlantis destroyed itself and was in society came back, or we will pick up where the good energy was with Atlantis and take it to the next level. By the way, Atlantis had high vibration technology using crystals. They tapped into the energy grid of the earth. They had free electricity. They had airplanes. They had a lot of technology that we are currently denying or unaware of. The point is that I want to put this out there to my subscribers and my viewers, and I won't always talk this esoteric because you may feel a calling to this deeper Atlantis Lemurian mission. You may have this feeling and this calling. I've had many clients who show Atlantis past lives in their chart. I've had readings with them, and they told me during Pisces, they had Atlantis dreams. They had dreams where they were riding the island down into the ocean, the tidal waves coming up, the food supplies being destroyed, all the different things. I happen to know my past life. I got off just in the nick of time. I'm always the last one off the boat. I'm always the last one. I rode that island all the way down and hopped on a boat. And even then, I think the boat actually almost didn't make it. I'm terrified of boats. Not really, but there's a deep terror in boats. I think it's because of just fleeing Atlantis. It just kind of stuck with me for 26,000 years. But in this moment right now on Earth, many of my clients are starting to wake up to these ancient civilizations. I have some clients who are awakening to Lemuria. I have some clients who are awakening to Atlantis. And I think that a lot of us watching right here, we're all part of that story together. I think we were involved and working together in that capacity. So this week is the week where, and this is the theme, where we will launch the way, basically. So the theme of the week ultimately is this is the way. And that comes from Mandalorian. Yes, I'm totally stealing that. I thought that was a cute phrase from Mandalorian. This is the way. We're going to identify this week what the way is. And I want to bring up the Atlantis and Lemuria because now that we are clearing off all of our baggage from the Dark Ages and we're starting to heal from the wounds we had after the fall of ancient civilization, we're now rubbing our eyes and waking up and saying, well, okay, what am I supposed to do? What is the way? And what is the path that I'm supposed to take? Because a lot of what we've been doing so far has really just been licking our wounds, recreating our wounds, trying to heal from our deep karmic issues. And so we've been mostly focused on survival and recuperating our civilization. We haven't been focused on thriving and taking our civilization to its potential. So you may come to realize this week, as the sun wraps up Pisces and enters into Aries, that you've come here for a very special mission in this lifetime. And this lifetime, this moment that's going to begin, by the way. So one of my good buddies, Ruben Langdon, you may know him. He runs a website called interviewwithed.org. He talks to a lot of mediums who download information. One of them is Wendy Kennedy, who downloads the Ps or the Palladians. Ruben and Wendy were telling me a couple weeks ago that there's going to be a frequency war. That's what they're calling it, a frequency war, where basically these two main factions on Earth, the ones that want to make Earth a better place and the ones that want to enslave the Earth and just make everyone work for them, are really going to be fighting for the collective's attention in the next 2 years. And this frequency war begins September of this year, which is precisely what my astrology has told me, that come September, we hit a headwind. And basically what that is that Earth reaches this point where it has to decide, is it going to continue to go up in vibration, or is it going to be pulled down in lower frequency through chemicals and toxins and pesticides and glyphosate and energy weapons and 5G frequencies and all these things that have been polluting us and lowering our frequency? Are we going to raise our frequency or lower our frequency? That's the great question. And behind that great question are all the pissed off people that wrote Atlantis down, who were do-gooders, and all the people who wanted to control the earth and accidentally blew Atlantis up. So they want another option to control the earth. So both want another go at it. And that go at it begins in September. All right. What will look like? Probably much more the same, although there might be some outlandish stuff going on. I mean, I wouldn't put it past certain sides and certain personalities to cheat, because that's what they did the last time, quite frankly. So your job in all of this is to ask yourself, what's your role in this cosmic moment for Earth? Because I believe you're going to launch the way. This is the way that you're going to find this week, and you're going to accept what your role is. That's the subplot, accepting what my role is in the way of the Earth. Some people's role is going to be support. Some people's role is going to be leadership. Some people's role is going to be organizing. Some people are here to bring on new technologies and to create good technologies and clean technologies that help us live in a healthy way. But I believe in the next 3 days, frankly, as the sun crosses over Neptune on Sunday, you are going to both realize what the way is for you, and I think and feel you're going to realize what your role is. So what role are you going to play? Now, when we ask this question, I just have to say, it's your heart that knows this truth, not your mind. Okay. Your heart knows the truth, not your mind. So when you're thinking through and processing over the weekend, what is the way, you have to ask yourself, what does my heart tell me? Because our mind, I believe, is going to be still programmed to the karma we had. Our mind is still thinking, and I believe it's going to take about 5 years for our mind to be completely reprogrammed to the way. Right now, our mind has been programmed to all of the dysfunction, all of the traumas, all of the dark ages, the pain, the abuse, the trespasses, all that. Our mind is basically waiting for the shoe to drop, basically. Our mind is programmed, waiting for Atlantis to sink, waiting for Lemuria to blow up. We're still programmed mentally with that. And the mind is just a tool that we use to pick up ideas and rearrange them. So as you go through this week, the key is really to listen to your heart and ask your heart what the truth is. You may not know how you're going to do it. You may not know where you're going to be, but it's time to know that you do belong on this path, and honor that path so that things can start to open up. For people who want to have memories of Atlantis open up, they will, if you request your heart to reveal those to you, by the way. So I do think that as Pluto moves to 2 degrees, so Pluto right now is at 1 degree, and that's just sort of that's just like cracking the door to those ancient civilizations. Once Pluto gets to 2, all the feelings will flow through, and the feelings are the key to reanimating those past memories. So when you have the feeling of going down in Atlantis or the feeling of going down Lemuria, you actually reanimate the memories of that. By the way, I'm just going to put out there for my buddy Ruben, he's doing a special Lemurian retreat on Mount Shasta in June. So go to interviewwithed.org for more information about that. But if you feel you're Lemurian and you want to hang out with some channels who channel ancient Lemuria and also EDs, I recommend Ruben. He's fantastic and he never lets anyone down. He's got a good ethic about him. So the key question of the week is, do I have it in me? Do I have it in me to do this? And that key question comes really from the sun moving into Aries. So the big picture I see for us this week is we're going to realize over this weekend we have this calling, like I have this calling. And by the way, the calling doesn't have to be, save the government, organize a rebellion, anything crazy like that. honestly, just by flooding the earth with loving creation, with a great idea for school care, with a great solution for food, with great technologies to grow food, whatever you're coming up with is adding to our ascension. So it doesn't have to be at the leader of the pack or the one in government arguing in Congress or any of those things. Honestly, the mundane is so much more powerful than these few positions of power that we see. And honestly, where we're going with humanity, power will not be top down in the future. Power will be bottom up. So as you think about this is the way, and you think about what is my role, it might, in the context of things, be very, very simple and ornate, but it's going to start a trend. And so this will be the dawn of the age of Aquarius, this trend that you start. I liken the dawn to the age, sort of like the pilgrims on Plymouth Rock in 1492. The pilgrims sought across the ocean to an unknown land to create a new world where everyone had freedom of religion, basically. That was what their goal was. They just wanted the freedom to pray to the God they want to pray to. And I don't honestly believe that those original pilgrims had it out to hurt the indigenous people. I really don't feel that that was their intention. Although bad people do bad things, I do believe that bad people started to come across, and we had the same imperialists that were part of England. And so United States did take on that imperialistic tone for sure. We got infected with that, even though this is a democracy. But if you think about, had there not been the pilgrims landing on Plymouth Rock, there would have been no constitutional convention, no Declaration of Independence, no second Atlantis. The same is true right now. You, my friend, with your business and your plan and your vision, you are a pilgrim. You are creating a new world. You are planting the seeds for conscious capitalism, for compassion, for inclusivity, for individuality, for allowing people to be who they are, for honoring our uniqueness, all these wonderful traits that were invited with the Declaration of Independence, but never really seen through to due to financial powers and things like that. You are now setting those codes for us to open up into the age of Aquarius, which is about 100, 150 years from now. It depends. So even though the age of Aquarius is not happening right now, even though we don't have free energy in these cool, technologies that are said to be coming in the age of Aquarius, the time is now to break ground and do what you're here to do. What you're here to do is basically the conglomerate of all the lifetimes you have lived since you fell in an ancient civilization. Now, I will say, since we're on this topic, if you don't really feel a resonance to Atlantis or Lemuria, first of all, you might over time. Second of all, your soul may not have come back then. Back then, it was actually like the pilgrims of the galaxies. The people who became Atlantis and Lemurian citizens, from what I understand, they were all incarnating from other planets and other systems. So they were all star seeds. All the original humans were star seeds, from what I understand. And they were all new to this world, pioneering how to do things, and brand new. So I think a lot of souls waited for the earth to sort of like reboot itself and then started incarnating over from other systems. So not everyone has ancient history with the earth. Some do, some don't. Now, I went really big picture there because I wanted you to know that the story here is a lot deeper and a lot more profound than what we've been telling ourselves and what's been happening. And this is the week where you are ultimately going to set out on whatever this voyage is. So, looking at the week as a whole, in fact, let's go ahead and just go to the planets. So the sun this week, let me grab my notes here. The sun starts off in Pisces this week and moves over into Aries. So we have a 2-part week. And really between now and Tuesday night, we are launching the way. So this is where you will spiritually sort of march and say, okay, this is the direction I'm going to. This is where I want to be. This is what my heart's position is here on the earth. I've come to illuminate education. I've come to help children. I've come to expand the food supply. I've come to reorganize conscious capitalism, which actually is what I'm here to do. I'm actually, believe it or not, for whatever you see me as, my huge heart passion is reorganizing business for good. That's what Unite the Light is, frankly. That's my deepest passion. So we're going to launch our passion. And then the sun goes into Aries on Tuesday night and goes from 0 Tuesday night to 2 degrees on Friday. And that's where the second question comes up. Do I have it in me? Can I pull this off? And so as we move into Aries, the real theme is that we're going to have to rebirth our migo. That's what I call it. So I believe Aries has 3 decans in it. There's the migo, there's the ego, and then there's the character. So your migo is how you make you go. Your migo is the part of you that forces you to get up with the alarm clock, forces you to follow through and do your taxes, the part of you that pushes and motivates you to get things done. So that inner self motivator is the migo. And this migo has been programmed and trained because egos are programmed. They're not reincarnated. We build a new one every time we come and we discard it like our body every time we go. We're going to have to rebuild our migo in this season because our migo is all designed to support us really with our karmic stuff we've been shedding. So everything inside of you, your rah-rah, your ego stuff has all been to get you to not fall into your old karma, to get you to survive and heal from your old karma, to keep you out of trouble. It hasn't been for the way. Your migo hasn't been a cheerleader inside of yourself for you to pull off your lifelong mission here on the earth. So this, do I have it in me? I can tell you the question is, you do, but you're not ready yet. And so what we're going to start to do on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday is start to examine and reprogram our inner response mechanisms of our migo. And I'm getting a little ahead there. Now, before that, the sun today is at step 25. This is a Grandmaster spiritual day today. I'm really grateful I released the Unite the Light tickets on this Grandmaster day. That's really good. This is really where you spiritually come into your alignment and realize where you're aligned or disaligned with your destiny. You may come to realize right now your life is not heading for your destiny and that you want to turn your life towards the way. Tomorrow we commit to the way. Sunday, the sun and Neptune conjoin here, the sun and Neptune. And when they conjoin, that's really when you accept or reject the soul contract. So we sign the soul contract on Sunday. Signing basically means, okay, the way to not sign it is to stop your direction in life because you're most likely already heading in that direction. So Neptune 27, that's to a 9, that your spiritual ship is already heading towards your destiny. So if you don't align and agree with your destiny, you're going to have to stop your life in the way it's currently headed. This isn't oh, I will start when I can. No, you're already drifting this way because you've been subconsciously piloting this direction. So we sign the soul contract on Sunday. We hold space on Monday. We're tested on our karma on Tuesday. And then Tuesday night before bed, the sun goes into Aries and we begin to look at our migo. Now, Venus is still hanging out in Pisces. She moves from 5 to 13 Pisces this week. So we open up and we start to accept our new spiritual timeline inside of us. So we're getting comfortable in our new timeline this week. You're getting comfortable with no longer having to be afraid, comfortable with no longer worrying, comfortable with knowing you're not going to get sick, comfortable with knowing you're going to succeed. That's been one of the things that's come up for me. I used to worry that I wouldn't be able to succeed. Now I have no doubts. It's really funny. It was such a karmic pattern of mine, but now I realize there is no other option. That is my timeline that I'm going to subscribe to. So we're really starting to open up and get comfortable with these new this new karma-free energy inside of us, which is going to feel, I think, really cozy. I myself have wanted to sleep every day. Every day I hit this snooze alarm and I sleep another hour. So I'm having to set my alarm clock an hour early so I can trick myself into sleeping the extra hour because I've been wanting so much sleep, basically. So the other planet is Saturn this week goes from step 11 to step 12. And this is huge because Saturn at step 11 is putting the final touches on your inner integrity, your inner spiritual integrity. So we wrap that up and Saturn goes to 12 on Monday. And what that means is your responsibility, which is Saturn, shifts from inner karma to outer world karma starting on Monday. All right. What that means is you're going to now start to see that, okay, now that I'm not thinking of myself as a loser, look at all these loser things I'm doing in life where I'm really not honoring myself for what I'm worth. Now that I am worthy and I don't have self-worth issues, look at all the things where I've cheated myself and been cheap and not really invested in myself because I didn't have self-worth. So you're going to start to see this week, wow, you're going to see your own life and from a new eye perspective. You're going to realize, wow, my life that I've created, I don't know why I'm going to turn off these things right now. My life and what I've created, it's actually turned off. Okay, so there we go, Apple, fine. Is a reflection of that inner turmoil I had. So I'm just putting it out there. Things are going to be on the chopping block. People are going to get fired, let go. People are going to start leaving behind relationships. As soon as the sun gets to like 9 degrees Aries, okay, which is next week at the end of March, some people are going to suddenly have the courage to start making cuts. And so I predict a lot of layoffs, a lot of job changes, a lot of relationship endings, a lot of people quitting programs, like quitting certain health programs, quitting certain medical programs and going more rogue onto their own spiritual journey of healing. A lot of things ending. It may kind of feel depressing, but what it is it's that the ego is following through with what the spirit just determined was necessary in the last 30 days of Pisces. So that's the energy of Pisces. Now, in Aries, we have quite a party going on. First of all, the sun moves into Aries, like I said, Tuesday night, and goes from 0 to 2 degrees. So your heart is going to look at where you draw the line with yourself. Your heart's going to look at when you act on love or don't act on love. Your heart's going to look at how you respond to emotions. Basically, the way you treat yourself on the inside has to be reprogrammed according to the new karma inside of you. So now that you have new karma, I don't need to treat myself like a loser. I'll go ahead and give myself the benefit of the doubt. I'll go ahead and rent the nicer room. I'm going to go ahead and go VIP at Unite the Light. Like you start giving yourself permission because you no longer are putting yourself down. So I think it's going to be particularly towards next Friday. By the time I'm on here next Friday, I think we're going to feel a lot more liberated and free than we have been because we've been under our own slave driver, which is our ego. Now, Mercury is planning. Mercury goes from 11 degrees to 20 degrees Aries this week. So basically, once we get the green light, we're like a race car. We just take off. The mind's going to be processing everything that has to be done. And well, if that's the case, I'm cutting this and adding this and setting up for this and buying this and moving this to there. And so we're going to be really busy minded, a lot of fast action, a lot of fast conversation, people getting drained probably from all their conversations. Now, I want to point out that Mercury does go direct on April Fool's Day. So on April Fool's Day, Mercury will retrograde back through this space. So what I'm saying is, although there's so many things that have to be done and so many things that have to be planned, you're going to actually rethink through it and then think through it again. All right. So you're going to really reprocess everything you process. So the point is, don't worry too much about getting it perfect or getting it right. It's not, you're going to have a chance to think about it again. Chiron is at 18. Chiron is at 18 on my Chiron. So I'm having wow, that's crazy. My final Chiron return, I announced Unite the Light. You don't realize how karmic that is for me and my life and what I've done the last 26,000 years. That's a big deal. I'll pat myself on the back for that. Yay. We pulled the ship up. But Chiron at 18 means we're facing our fears and healing our fears of times when we made a mistake, when we did the wrong thing, when we behaved incorrectly, where we responded incorrectly. So energetically, we are going to face with Mercury crossing Chiron this week, and Mercury crosses Chiron on Wednesday. That whole like, do I have it in me? That's a big theme that happens Wednesday. And the reason why you're asking the question, do I have it in me, is because once upon a time you didn't, and you're remembering that time that you didn't, and now you're coming full circle and going to decide to get on the horse one more time. The North Node at 15 degrees is still saying, take the path of least resistance. Open up your heart, find the path of least resistance. The idea that life is a struggle is actually the old era. It's not the new era. Life isn't a struggle in the new era. It's going to be really hard for us to kind of comprehend that, especially as we have robots and technology like doing all the hard stuff for us. We're not going to lift heavy things much longer. We're not going to do boring things much longer. We're almost done with this period in Earth's history. So the path of least resistance is a very good way. It doesn't have to be hard to make it work. Now, moving on into Aquarius, we still have Pluto in Aquarius. As I mentioned, I'm going to take a sip of my tea. Pluto's at 1 degree Aquarius. It will only go to 2 at its highest point. That will be later here at the end of the month, I think. Does it hit the end of the month this month? I think so, at the end of this month. I'll have to look that up. Can't memorize all the planets and all the degrees, but I do know that Pluto is at 2 for April and May, basically. I know that Pluto's retrograde 2 at Unite the Light on May 18th and May 19th. So I know that's going to be the case. But what it does mean is, like I said, that base bottom floor, basically Pluto at 1 says, gone are the days where you didn't love yourself. Gone are the days where you didn't love yourself first. Now, there's only 2 ways that are going to happen. Either you obey Pluto and you love yourself, or you will manifest crisis that forces you to love yourself. See for yourself. This is how the planets work. Pluto gives you no options. So believe it or not, we're all going to move into loving ourselves first. By the time the frequency wars happen in September, we'll be loving ourselves because we want to survive. It won't be because we want to thrive. So right now it's for thrival. It will be for survival, I do think, for a couple of years, unfortunately. But still, people are going to love themselves a whole lot more than they have. When was the last time Pluto was in Aquarius at 1 degree? 1777. When the American colonists were deciding whether or not they're going to fight the American Revolution, whether or not they're going to stand up and love themselves to create a new free society where there's freedoms and a Bill of Rights, etc. So we've seen it before in history. It happens where you're forced to love yourself. And of course, the whole world is going to be in that place. I'm US centric because I live here. And I believe it's been casted as the new Atlantis. So I had to come back. The last one I wrote down. Okay. But it's everywhere. It's worldwide. No matter where you're watching from, loving yourself first is important. And by the way, as Sensei, I am seeing people standing up in Europe. Way to go. I am seeing people standing up for their rights in places around the world. Way to go. I'm here for you. I support you. I think you're doing amazing work. Our media is not showing all this. It has to be seen on the internet. So I'm having to search for these things, but it's not just US centric. This is a global re-evolution. Now, Mars goes from step 24 to step 29, Aquarius this week. And what that means is we are going to push and launch the new frequency this week. So it is time to go high vibe. It's time to go high vibe at everything you do. You will only be ahead of the curve. High vibe is in your food, in your water, in your sleep, away from toxins, away from frequencies. Put your phone outside your room while you sleep. Do yourself a favor. Do not keep it near your head. Don't keep earbuds in your head too long. Be careful of frequency and how frequency can interrupt your biological processes. But also high vibe means let's take the high road. Let's opt out of the conflict. Let's opt out of arguing. And let's focus on our Golden Egg Project. Let's focus on what we're here to do. Let's focus on the way. It's time to launch the way. All right. So emotionally this week, the moon is in Gemini. If you can't tell, I am just chatting like crazy. We're going to be processing, thinking basically today, tomorrow, and Sunday. So really when we sign the soul contract for our new destiny on Sunday, and that signing is, I'm not going to stop it. I'm going to let it happen. So soul contracts automatically play. You have to opt out of them. Basically, you don't really have to sign into them. I found out. So if you're like, I don't know what my soul contract is, don't worry. You signed in heaven. Okay. So it's you stopping it. So we sort of process all of our soul contract stuff, Saturday and Sunday. Then, come Sunday night, Monday and Tuesday, deep feels. So I am expecting some last minute torrential cries to happen Sunday and Monday and part of Tuesday. All right. These are for, if you end up crying Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, you are really strong and you were able to hold out and white knuckle it until that final moment. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you're too strong for your own good. And that's why it came out in this torrential breakdown of crying. You can't hold on to these sick, toxic feelings inside of us and raise your hot air balloon to a higher vibration. So I do think it'll be very, You'll be second guessing. Am I crazy? Maybe replaying of old themes. Just it's sort of like the devil tempts you back right when you're about to change. That's basically what's happening with the moon in Cancer. All these feelings are to come up because the sun in Pisces is a water sign. Cancer is emotion. When we have the sun in a water sign, nothing blocks that emotion from coming up. So Scorpio and Pisces feelings come up. And so you're going to be probably a little gushy, a little tender, but also happy in a way, like kind of joyful that this is coming out finally. So I think there's a satisfaction. That's the word I'm looking for. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday night, the moon's in Leo. So this is where our heart gets inspired. So your heart will be highly inspired as the sun moves into Aries, the moon moves into Leo, trines the sun at first. What this does is this just sort of like lights a fire under your rump. You're going to feel enthusiastic and happy, and I think optimistic, and realizing this is where we're naive and we're just going to start marching into the new era and into the new sign contract, and not necessarily second guess or doubt what that is. I have that feature turned off, I have to say. Apple. Um, so it's going to be, I think, joyful. And then Friday night, when I come back on the air, the moon will move into Virgo, and that's when reality hits. So we have like a little honeymoon period emotionally from Tuesday night till Friday morning. I would definitely celebrate and be excited and move forward and realize that things get serious next weekend. So have fun now is my expectation and my suggestion. Now, as far as Virgo is concerned, we do have Black Moon Lilith at 18 degrees Virgo. The interesting thing about that is the Chiron's also at 18, but 18 Aries, which is a Grandmaster degree for Aries. So they are quincunxing, so they're connected to each other. What that ultimately means is life must be changing because we are facing fears of change. 18 is change. I know I'm an 18-degree Taurus. I'm here to change the world. I'm here to be here when the world changes. The only thing I hate changing is my wardrobe, but I'm all about change. And so Black Moon Lilith at 18 and Chiron at 18 does say that we are facing our fears of change and healing our trauma around change, which tells you if you're healing the trauma around change, you must be changing. So expect changes. In Taurus, I'm so happy. Jupiter is climbing up here from 14 to 15 degrees. This is an expansion of the way you think, the way your values think. I noticed that I was being stingy with my money. I was still spending money like I had no money instead of spending money like I have money. And that alone is the secret to abundance. If you spend money like you don't have money, then you're constantly putting in a vote for, I don't have money and I won't have money. If you spend money like you have money and there's more where that came from, then you will bring in and return. It is time to invest in what your heart opinion is of value right now at Jupiter 14. And when Jupiter hits 15 on hump day, it's time to accept that value. So you're going to have a lot of accepting of what that value is. Wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people end up doing their taxes this week, just saying. Because you put it off till the sun goes into Aries and they're like, oh crap, I'm behind. When the sun's in Pisces, it's like, oh, I don't want to do my taxes. Oh God, I don't want to, Jesus. And then the sun gets in Aries, like, oh crap, I better get them done. So it's kind of funny how that happens every year. Whoever decided to do the tax date knew astrology, I think. But the point is like, we're going to accept our worth. And part of accepting that worth might actually be that you file your taxes and you accept what you're worth for this next year. Now, Uranus at 20 is awesome because 20 is an abundant number. And so this is opening up a portal between the two here. Jupiter and Uranus, 5 degrees apart as far as abundance is concerned. By the way, I don't know if you caught it in my open, but the Unite the Light conference is when the sun conjuncts Jupiter at 28 degrees, which is the Grandmaster degree for Taurus. I chose that weekend. And that's why I've worked so hard, because that weekend is the weekend when everyone steps into this mega abundant potential of manifestation. We'll be coaching you here every week to take advantage of those wins. But Uranus at 20 is setting the stage, which means that basically the ceiling of what you can earn is rising to another level. All right. So those are the planets. I had an extra Aries, but I actually consolidated them thanks to Sarah. I'm going to do a share screen and share some planets here. Um, all righty. So again, keep streaming for Namaste today's Astro Mingle. We have Dr. Judy Tsafrir coming in. She is a holistic healer, a psychiatrist, a psychoanalyst, and author of the book Sacred Psychiatry. Excuse me, too many sighs as a psychic here. I have had enough sighs. Fascinating about her is this is a woman who went pure medical Western science and has chosen to adopt these other alternative spiritual means into her practice. So I'm super excited to talk to her about what she's discovered. Looking at the first date, it's St. Patrick's Day on Sunday. You can see here the sun conjuncting Neptune. This is the signing of the soul contract, or probably better put, your one option to back out. So your option to back out of the soul contract is going to be on Sunday. Early in the morning, you better get up early for that, because once the sun crosses Neptune, you have agreed and concluded that you are on, this is the way. Saturn 11 says we are staying in our integrity. Saturn goes to 12 on Monday. So right after we sign the soul contract, Saturn's like, okay, let's look at our karma in our daily life. Mercury between worlds at 13 degrees Aries. So basically, Mercury is waiting for the sign. Do we sign the contract or not? Because that's going to determine what I do or don't do at step 13. Again, Jupiter at 14, Uranus at 20, all this will result in the escalation of our manifest potential. And as I pointed out earlier, Chiron at 18, Quincunxing Black Moon Lilith at 18, we're clearly about to change our life because we're facing fear and trauma of the time we once changed. Monday, March 18th, the Mercury conjoins the North Node. So Mercury says basically on Monday, okay, this is the way. And we sort of bow and accept the way as Mercury hits the North Node. This does mean that relationships will be ending and certain alliances will be splitting, basically. Mars at 26 says, okay, let's commit to that vibration of ascension at this moment. Venus at 8 says, okay, let's commit to the spiritual story inside of me. So as we are committing to manifesting our new spiritual legacy, we are accepting the way and we are committing to the vibration and the responsibility inside of us that's necessary. Then we have the sun move into Aries. Actually, I should have done this for 59 seconds. I keep screwing this up. So at 11:07, we'll say 1 minute later, the sun moves into Aries. That's 11:07 East Coast time on Tuesday. So might have some disruptive dreams. Really, actually, all of Tuesday might be a little disruptive with the sun at 29 degrees. That's just because we're going to be testing on our karmic stuff. Notice Mercury here about to cross Chiron. So we know we're about to do something that we've used to fail at or once failed at. So a lot of apprehension probably on Tuesday night. And again, it could be disruptive. Looks like I missed this earlier in the day, actually. Before that apex, Venus does oppose Juno. Juno at 9 degrees. So Venus is saying, okay, I need to open up on the behavior inside myself necessary for this new spiritual karmic era with myself. Juno at 9 degrees, Virgo says, and that means my daily maintenance and care for myself. So we're sort of like basically aligning our spiritual care with our physical care. This is, body health, stress, nutrition, toxins, etc. Then we have the sun moving to Aries. Then on Wednesday, hump day, we have Mercury conjoin Chiron. So on hump day, when the sun goes into 0, which is basically, let's do this. So we say, let's do this. And Mercury at 18, Chiron is like, okay, I hope I don't mess up again like I did back in the, in the dark ages. The moon's in Leo, so we're loving ourselves and loving ourselves some more. And look at Jupiter goes to the path of least resistance when it comes to money and accepting what you're worth. So as soon as you face that fear, you get paid by the universe. Jupiter goes to 15. Every time Jupiter goes up a higher degree, we all make more money. The next day on Thursday, the sun then sextiles Pluto at step 1 in Aries. Now this sextile is that part of the way, and the way you behave with yourself is that you have to love yourself and love yourself some more unconditionally. So you have to love yourself unconditionally if you're going to actually do this new way. And you have to raise the self-love higher than you've ever had before. The level of self-love is ridiculous, all right? What I do remember in Atlantis was we were all high all the time. The energy just felt very high. The only way I can describe it is like when I was a kid and I went to Disneyland and I was all high and excited that I was going to Disneyland. That's how Atlantis felt. It always felt high, but we're using a lot of metaphysics and crystals and a lot of other stuff. On Thursday, March 21st, Venus then conjuncts Saturn. So what happens here is Saturn has moved to 12 degrees. Venus in Pisces moves up, and we say it's now time to embrace the fact that karma in our life is going to have to change based on what our heart feels is true. One to the two. What my heart feels is true, I've got to change my karmic life. So you start to realize by Thursday, I'm really have to make some changes. This life of mine's a mess. It's all based on all the stuff I had going on in my life before when I didn't believe in myself, or I had low self-worth, or I was self-sabotaging, or I was caught in addiction. Whatever those issues were, we now realize, now that I've woken up and I look at my life, this place is a mess. I've got a lot of cleaning up to do. I think we all do. And then lastly, on Friday, Mars enters into Pisces. Again, I got to do 59 seconds. At 7:48, Mars ingresses into Pisces, which is really good because the sun in Aries is very aggressive. It creates anxiety, impatience, barking at people, sometimes even violence. But having Mars, the ruler of the sun, in Pisces, that's actually good. That really tones it down. That forces the motive of any action to be spiritually based. So I do think that as we're ramping up this new Migo and this new strength, we're doing it in a soft way. We're going to be peaceful citizens in the way we take and do action. So I do think I'm looking forward to it. My Mars is in Pisces. So just think of Sensei in the way I act. I'm always acting with others in consideration. And so that means it's now time to talk about you. Go steep yourself some tea, my friend. Let's have our weekly tea time. All righty. So nice to be here, folks. This is our tea time segment where I do horoscopes. By the way, just as some housekeeping, I'm going to have to drink some more water as we go through here because I burned through my throat. We do release our horoscopes every week, cut out in individual horoscopes on Tuesdays. Last week, we had a special bonus. We cut out and released the Summer of Love horoscopes between Scott Cruz and myself. Him and I tag teamed last week, remember, and did Summer of Love. We cut those out and we put them as separate horoscopes. Those are on our Serious Joy channel. You can watch those. Remember, this will be the Summer of Love. We will be having a good time. Technically, Unite the Light kicks off the Summer of Love, which is no accident. That was the whole plan. So it's going to be a fun time. But you can watch those horoscopes if you missed them. Available right now on the Serious Joy channel. Tell your friends. By the way, I did not do a live event with Scott last week. I'm doing it this week, this upcoming week. We ended up moving it because just too much going on. So if you're looking for that duel with me and Scott on his channel, happening this Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I always have to remember that. All right. So looking at the horoscopes this week, I want to do a deep dive for all 12 signs and help you figure out exactly how to navigate this really karmic and powerful week. I'm really proud of how many people I see going through great changes right now. I think to support you in the highest light, we want to first say that I want to talk to you about what the new destiny timeline. So when I say this is the way, we're talking about where your spiritual path must go. So you are energetically either opting out of this contract or it's happening on its own. That's what I've learned, is that it happens on its own. Unless you stop it with sabotage or pain or things like that. So we're destined. So I'm going to talk about where's your destiny timeline taking you? What are you launching as the Sun and Neptune conjoin on Sunday? What are you agreeing to? And I'm going to be talking about it. What are you agreeing to? Then once you agree to that, shift. Do I have it in me? Can I pull this off? Where are you going to focus on? Do I have it in me? So I'm going to talk about where the new Migo is being forged. And we'll be talking about this new Migo for the next 4 weeks, of course. But this is a new way of motivating yourself from a place of compassion, unconditional love, non-judgment. These are the principles of the Migo I feel like we should instill. But nonetheless, we launched the Migo. And that probably also means at the same time, you're going to have the old Migo trying to resist. And that's important to know. Amigo doesn't go out without a fight. Okay. Like anytime I've tried to do something healthy for me, a little devil popped over my shoulder that kept me tried to stop it and sabotage it every time. And I'm like, damn it, it's so clear I should be doing this. And yet there's a part of me that wants to drive the car off the road. There's a part of me that wants to destroy it. There's a part of me that wants to, smash up the sandcastle I just spent 5 hours building. So we're going to have to be careful. The old Migo is not going to take it lightly that it's out of a job, but tell it to, slap on an apron and take care of you, because the Migo is ultimately more of our male side. Now, with the sun in Aries, it means to be that there's going to be this manifestation of a new mirage. Okay. So the new Migo is really a new way of treating yourself. The Earth in Libra is a new way of relating to yourself. So it's the birth of a new relationship as well as a new strategy. All right. So they're both being reborn at the same time. This will apex with a full moon lunar eclipse in Libra at step 5, which we'll talk about next week. So the Migo is not going down without a fight. And that fight's going to be a full moon solar eclipse. Okay. Solar eclipse is just going to karate chop that right under the legs and just knock it down. So we're going to end up knocking down that old Migo, but you're going to sort of prepare for that this week. But I'm going to talk about where are you manifesting a new relationship to yourself in order to empower this new Migo and set the tone for how the Migo responds to you. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about Mercury conjoining the North Node in Chiron, which happens on Hump Day, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, it does. And this will be really where your mind needs to open up and accept what needs to be done. So I think we're going to resist the way. We're going to say, this is the way. And then our mind's going to say, I don't want to go that way. And our heart's going to say, but I agreed to. And so there's going to be a little bit of where the mind needs to get on the program. And with Mercury conjoining the North Node and Chiron, the mind is going to have to convince yourself mentally that the same problems won't happen again. So I'm going to be talking exactly where that is as well. Okay. I'm enjoying the comments here as I'm watching everybody. I have like 40 glasses of drink here. All right. Knock, knock. Who's there? Okay. So starting with the Aries. Arieses are launching the new way when it comes to the relationship to God. So Aries have a new faith that's being born. Aries are basically launching a new faith. This new faith, I think, is a huge deal for Aries because Aries, first of all, kind of keep their focus on the ground most of the time. They're not always in the church. And if they are, they're there for a moment, they do their thing and they leave. Aries tend to have their faith more in their abilities, in their results. They put faith in their capabilities, in their talent, in their performance. And this is the old school Aries way of faith. But I think Arieses are now becoming metaphysical. And so there's a new way of faith for the Aries and a new way of relating to God. And I think this is your own way. So I'm not saying subscribe to any organized religion or subscribe to what I'm saying or anything. Find your own way, but just make sure you and God are connected, because the next era is crafted entirely based, of course, on God consciousness and higher self. So you want to have that connection or you won't be, on the right side of history, right? Now, when the sun goes into Aries, it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Aries. This is a big year for you. Your new Migo has to now treat you differently. The way you treat yourself, you're ready to treat yourself differently. You're ready to respond to yourself in different ways. The old way of motivating yourself was probably a little cruel or barbaric. I don't say that's because you're an Aries. I say that because of the era we were in as humans. We were all cruel and barbaric. So I feel like you are learning how to treat yourself in a much better way, maybe responding to yourself with kindness, maybe responding with patience, maybe responding with allowing things to go a number of different directions, that sort of thing. The Earth in Libra means you are manifesting now a new relationship to yourself. And I should have said this earlier, but I'll say it 12 times. With the South Node in Libra moving towards this part of Mirage, the way you related to yourself, the way I related to myself, the way everyone is related to themselves is over. We're not going to relate to ourselves like this anymore. It will take until early 2025 for the new Mirage to take. But this is the first step in a transformation of your Mirage to yourself. And so it's now time to completely relate differently to yourself. It's like you're going to get married to someone entirely different. All right. Mercury conjoining the North Node in Chiron says that it's time to accept a new way of behavior this week and realize a lot of your behavior has been triggered with Chiron in this space by old fears and old failures. So you're putting down the weapon, putting down the gun, put down the sword, okay, and surrender to the new way of behaving. The war really is over. If there's any struggle going on for Aries, you are keeping it alive. The rest of the world is tired of it and they don't want any part of it. So if you still have a lot of huff and puff problems with this person and problems with that person, you're in the old era. Because in the new era, it's all about what you do with yourself. It's not about what other people do. So a very powerful time for the Aries. Looking forward to see where they grow. Thanks for the affirmation, Gail. Me. Taurus. Taurus, you have a new way with your social reputation. So you are stepping out in the world in a new way. I'm a Taurus, and that's what Unite the Light is, and that's where Serious Joy is, and a whole bunch of things I have in cooking right now. We have a new reputation. We have a new responsibility to the world. Tauruses are the master builders of the new era. It's time for this master builder era to be built. So it's time to rebuild the world in wonderful, beautiful ways. And Tauruses love to build, love to cook, love to make things. So you have a new way when it comes to your response and your relationship to the public. The sun goes into Aries, and this is where you will really say, do I have it in me? Tauruses tend to act on their faith rather than wallow in it because they have Aries in the 12th house. So a Taurus will say, well, let me just do something about it. They don't sit there and worry, but you don't realize you're doing something about it because there was a worry that triggered you to do something about it. So most of Taurus's actions and reactions are based on their own karma with themselves, their own issues with faith. So your Migo has got to quit calling fire. It's got to quit saying things are horrible or sinking or worst case scenario or get in the bunker or, oh my God, the world is crashing. You literally got to choose. And I say this to all my Taurus friends. You have to decide now that the timeline is that the world works out okay. And that's a decision you have to make inside yourself, or you won't be on that timeline. That's how I see it now. I don't see, we're on the timeline we choose. And I'm not saying who's going to be president in my timeline, but I'm super excited. That's the timeline I'm picking. Now, the new relationship to yourself is with your body. Tauruses have to live in their body a different way now. They have to live maybe higher frequency food, maybe less food less frequently. It might be that you need to live in less stress. I know for me, it's that I need to hand off and delegate and hire. I've been hiring an assistant just so that my daily stress can go down and my sleep hours can go up. So you have to have a new relationship to your body for this new era to unfold. And the Mercury conjunction of Chiron and the North Node is that you must now surrender to a new spiritual connection to higher self. You are trying into a new spiritual timeline. And so it's time to surrender now. Put down the old timeline, pick up the new timeline, Taurus. You are switching channels. Geminis. Geminis are, they're finding the way when it comes to their life legacy and their retirement. It's time for a new plan for retirement, a new plan for legacy, a new way for their career and how things will unfold. So Geminis are basically accepting that they are going to succeed. They are going to make an impact. They are going to make a change on the planet. And so they're going to move forward and make that change. So it's time to plan for what is going to be the way of career, leadership, parenting, and retirement. All right. So if you want kids and you want to be a parent, this is where you say, yes, that's in the cards. If you want to own your own business, this is when you say, yes, that's in the cards. So really accepting the way of what your career and legacy is going to be. Once the sun goes into Aries, it's time for a new me-go of who you are to yourself in the public. So when you, for instance, are in the public, if everyone is saying, "Ooh, I double dog dare ya to jump off the bridge," who are you to yourself in your ear? What is your twin saying? Is your twin saying you're a loser? You should do it. You should dump these friends. What is that? What are you saying to yourself? How are you pushing yourself when you're in the public? That part of you that pushes yourself in public is the part that has to be reborn. You're not pushing yourself enough, maybe, or you're pushing yourself too hard, or you're judging yourself, or you're condemning yourself. But that little voice on your shoulder when you're in public needs to be rebooted. Now, this means that it's time for a new relationship to self-love. And by the way, self-love is not an idea. It's an action and it's a feeling. So Geminis must craft a new self-love regimen. They have to reboot self-love, redefine it. Whatever your self-love regimen is, it's not good enough. I'll just tell you right now, it's not good enough. It's got to be higher. A lot of Geminis want to just spend money on themselves for self-love, or self-love is hanging out with their favorite people. That's not self-love. If it includes another person, it's not self-love. Okay. So you've got to learn to make yourself happy without a smartphone in a dark closet. Okay. Then you will learn what self-love is, Padawan. Now, the North Node conjoining Chiron and Mercury conjoining Chiron, the North Node, is saying that it's time now to accept a new way when it comes to your social connections. You're going to find a new group of people. You're going to find a new posse. You're going to actually find that you're friends with people you never thought you'd be friends with. I think a lot of Geminis are becoming friends with people at work because their work is taking off right now and they're finding their work. But it's basically with social connections that you might have to put yourself out on a limb or go for something that you haven't gone for before. You might have to swallow some fear or anxiety around your social connections. All right. Okay. Cancers. Cancers are finding the way with their life purpose and their meaning. A lot of cancers, a lot of cancers made their purpose around a person. And that's okay, but that's not enough. There's got to be more in it for you. So cancers are finding a new life purpose that might include the love of their life, but really also includes their first love of their life, them. So the way has to do with the way of life. For you, this is a way of life. This is a philosophy of life. This is a motto that you live by. This is what gives you meaning and purpose. It might mean to make a difference in a child's life, or to make a difference for your neighbors, or to make a difference for yourself, or to put yourself through grad school because you deserve it. So it's now time to find the way of life purpose and meaning. Now, when the sun goes into Aries, the issue around can I do it or do I have it in me has to do with self-discipline. Similar to Geminis, the way you are to yourself to get something done is not new era. It's sort of old school. So you're hard on yourself. Maybe you guilt yourself. Maybe you bully yourself to get to work or force yourself. And you really don't want to. And so your methods of getting yourself to commit are old school methods. You need new methods in how you sign up for something. You know, reframe it and be motivated through different actions to yourself than the ones you have had so far. So it's time to motivate with new self-discipline. The Earth in Libra says, well, then you're going to have a new relationship to your own feelings. The way Cancers relate to their feelings, according to the astrology, is old school. You probably aren't treating your feelings the way you treat other people's feelings. I'm just saying. So it's time to give yourself an upgrade on the inner nanny and treat yourself better and use different methods to nurture your feelings and different techniques and develop a different rapport. It's going to be really necessary, your emotional rapport, to be able to pull off what your career is going to be. So your feelings of self. Now, where you must surrender and be okay is that your career and leadership, you're going to end up going down a path that you might be worried about, nervous about, but want. So if you have any apprehension or nervousness around your career, around parenting, around legacy, that apprehension is because you're about to do something that you failed at before, or you're about to do something that you have dropped the ball on or given up on before. And so it's time now just to surrender to the right way and realize that the career path might be a bit of a karmic challenge, but you will pull it off for sure. We know the Cancers, they always pull it off. Okay. Leos. Leos, your way is with evolution and transformation. And I'm so happy to announce as a Leo rising, I am currently under major construction right now. I'm on a cleanse that's been lasting for over a week. So I'm totally cleansing, transforming. Leos, what's your evolution? What's your transformation? Clean out the garage, clean out the closets, get rid of the junk in your trunk, and move on and give yourself a new life. So this is about the way of transforming your life. The way Leos have been operating have not been basically in their best potential. So your life has come to a point where the boundaries, what you open up to, what you don't open up to, who you connect to, who you let in, who you don't let in, this is all not going to work in the new era. Leos are going to be so much closer to people than they have been in the past. I think Leos have been afraid to accept love or accept connections because it came with strings. It came with a price. It came with manipulation. It came with people stealing their thunder or stealing their joy. So you really have to open up to changing your life and reorganizing it so that the people in your life are the people that support you, and that you're not trying to win support from people who you don't love. Okay. So it's a transformation of your life and an evolution of your life to the next level. The sun goes into Aries, and for you, the new Migo has to do with your belief in yourself. I think Leos have often sort of taken their belief in themselves based on their credibility, based on the impact they made on others, based on how many people love them, how many people love their social media and like their social media. Basically, your belief in yourself, I believe, has been based on outside things, not inside things. You have to go ahead and believe first and validate later. So give yourself the benefit of any doubt. Believe in yourself and risk being an emperor with no clothes, risk being a fool. Your odds are going to be higher if you give yourself the benefit of the doubt and fail, than if you try to hold yourself back and prevent yourself from making a mistake because you weren't quite sure. Remember, believing in yourself is what your heart feels is true. That's right. Lemon water and Kaon. That's what I've been doing. So it is time to act on that belief too, not just theorize on it. So Aries means you act on it. So if you believe in yourself, go sign up. Go put down the money on the deposit on the house you want. Go put your money where your mouth is if you believe. Now, you're going to have a new relationship with the way you talk to yourself or the way you think about yourself. Okay. So your self-talk, your thoughts ultimately have to be different. Your relationship to your own thinking is not appropriate for the way. So it's time to re-architect how you think. Do you smart off? Do you put yourself down? Do you go negative? Do you fall into the shadow? Do you focus on the hard part instead of focusing on the good part? Only you know where your relationship to your own thoughts is holding you back. But the astrology says it is. It's time for Leos to have a whole new mindset. And with Mercury conjoining Chiron and the North Node, it's time now to surrender to your experience and your knowledge. You have enough knowledge and enough experience to pull it off now. You don't need to go for any more or try to prove anything or get any more education. The world is a hot mess. We're about to go into a frequency thing. You don't have time to read a book. It's now time to accept and experience your experience and your knowledge right now. Yes, you could read a book, but the point is you don't need any more education. What's over is this idea that you have to prove you're right. That's over now. All right. The leaders of love, the Leos. Virgos, the virtuosos. Virgos, it's now time to find the way with partnerships and marriage. Okay. It's now time to find partnerships and marriage. What is the way? There is a way you're going to approach it. There's a way they're going to treat you. There's a way they're going to turn out, and it's time to surrender to what that way is. I know that Virgos have had a hell of a time in relationships and they've been held back and really been troubled by them, but that's over. That's not the new way. So it's now time to accept the way that relationships will go your way, basically. Now, the sun goes into Aries, which means your boundaries with yourself right now are all super over fortified because you're trying to protect yourself from the bad relationships. So you built up all this arsenal, all these walls to keep the bad relationships out. And now that you have this new way of relationships, it's time to bring those walls down. So your new MIGO has to do with either the boundaries with yourself or the way you enforce those boundaries or fail to enforce those boundaries. Perhaps the writing's on the wall, but you're not actually following through and enforcing whatever that particular rule is. So Virgos it's time to have a new MIGO with drawing boundaries and enforcing boundaries. Now, this means that you need an entirely new relationship with self-worth. Earth in Libra says the way you value yourself, which is old school, and maybe you value yourself by crossing T's and dotting I's and getting all the facts right and never making mistakes. Maybe that's what made you feel good. Maybe you feel good when you're the teacher's pet, you're in the front row. Maybe you felt good when you pulled something off beyond perfection. And God is saying, that's not a good way to rate your value anymore. How you value yourself has to go higher. It might be being through love. I mean, just self-worth through love. I love myself and therefore I'm worthy. But it's time to change your relationship to your self-worth and self-esteem. The Mercury conjunction of Chiron and the North Node says it's time to surrender when it comes to boundaries with others. There's not a lot more to do when it comes to boundaries with others, according to the astrology. It's your boundaries with yourself that are really a mess. Once you're clear with yourself, you're going to be clear with others. So I wouldn't go out of my way to enforce boundaries with others or to draw new boundaries with others, because keep in mind, everyone's going to do-si-do and change relationships. So the new people that come into your life, they'll respect the boundaries from the get-go. Let the whole boundary fight go, says Mercury. Libras. Libra, you're going to find the way when it comes to performance and lifestyle. So there's a way of living life. There's a smooth grace. There's an easy path of least resistance. There's a spiritual high note. I think Libras have lived in lifestyles that are very hot and cold, where there's been a lot of good times and a lot of bad times, never really just flying steady at a steady altitude. So I think this is about building a life you have faith in, a life that reinforces your faith in the universe, and a life that really goes smoothly based on compassion and spiritual values. So it's time to find the way of life for the Libras and Libra risings. This does mean that you're going to rebirth your mirage. The sun going into Aries means the way you treat yourself, the way you approach yourself. So how you see yourself in the mirror, this is not correct. This is old era, is what the astrology is saying, that you look at yourself in the mirror from the old eyes, from the childhood eyes, from the karmic eyes. So it's really time to reinvent how you interact with yourself and the approach you take with yourself in the mirror or in life. That entire approach needs to be rebuilt. The other thing that has to change is your relationship to how you treat yourself. Do you ignore yourself until you are starving? Do you feed everyone else before you feed yourself? Do you put your needs second to other people's needs? These are all classic cliche Libra responses to themselves, to literally put themselves on the bottom of the totem pole for someone else. And then in some cases, base their power on that. Like, look what I did. I sacrificed for others. That's not how God works. We're not necessarily meant to sacrifice ourselves. That's a religious thing we're brainwashed with. So it's time to have a new relationship to how you treat yourself. And that treating of yourself is usually in the mind when you're alone with yourself in the quiet times. So it's not like you took yourself on a vacation. It's that you dropped the bag of groceries and then you beat yourself up for 2 hours. That's the kind of self-treatment that has to evolve. Now Mercury conjoining Chiron and also the North Node says it's time to go ahead and just go with the flow when it comes to relationships. Accept what your relationships are right now. Don't push, don't change anything, don't worry. Accept the way relationships are going right now, because it's going to be very clear once you up the ante with yourself what relationships works and what don't. which do not. But in most cases, karmic lessons and contracts are coming to a full circle. So no need to beat a dead horse. No need to try to convince that person you're in a relationship with that you're right and they're not right, because they might be going away, frankly, or you might be changing so much that it's a moot point. So take the path of least resistance in your relationships. Scorpios. Scorpios, it's time to find the way when it comes to your personal dreams and your golden egg project. So it's time for your dreams to come true, Scorpio. It's time for all of them to come true. You deserve it. You've sacrificed plenty. The world is ready to finance that creation. So find the way of your personal dreams, whether that's to retire in a beautiful home on a lake, or your personal dream is to find the love of your life, or your personal dream is to write the best-selling novel. Whatever it is, it's now time to find the way. This is the way. Now, when the sun goes into Aries, you're going to realize that your Migo is old era in the moment. So you have an old school sort of drill sergeant that you put on yourself in the moment, and that amps up your stress, which throws down the health of your body. So how you treat yourself in the moment, how you treat your body, according to the astrology, is old era. You got to take it up to a higher level. If you need, just think about what you would do if you had money, and then find a way to do it without money. But raise the quality of your self-care in the moment. Now, with the Earth in Libra, it means that you need a new story when it comes to inner faith. The thing about Scorpios is that they forgive, but they don't forget. And I've been saying to Scorpios, it's time to forget. I know the reason why you hold on to those painful memories is so they don't happen again, but you're actually making them happen again by holding on to them. So you must forgive and forget. Your relationship to faith now has to be, by default, you have faith, benefit of the doubt, faith, trust, but then verify. That has to be the mantra of faith for Scorpios. Get rid of any skepticism. I know you have a whole history where you're super wise and you've been a park ranger for a long time, and you know that Boo-Boo is going to try to steal that picnic basket. It doesn't matter. You have to give Yogi a new chance. You have to just let it all go and default and have faith in yourself by default. And that's actually, as far as your Mercury conjunction, the path of least resistance is in the now. Your daily lifestyle, health issues, food issues, etc. Take the path of least resistance and just go with the flow in daily life. Okay, excellent. I'm going to take a sip. Sagittariuses. Sagittarius, it's now time to find the way of family and emotional security. You are finding your family, you're finding your security, you're finding the way. I talked about this for the last couple of weeks. Sagittarius all came from broken homes for one reason or another, either the fault of the parents or not the fault of the parents. And so they got the hell out of the house like around age 17 usually. And I'm finding that Sagittarius are now getting back into their home and family life. It's time to find the way of emotional security. And emotional security isn't just family. Emotional security is also money in the bank, having a backup plan, not putting all your eggs in one basket. These are all different forms of emotional security. So it is time now to find the way of emotional and family security. Now, the sun in the Migo is time to reboot self-love. When it comes to self-love, I have to say Sagittariuses are old era for sure. They're very rarely taking credit. They don't put themselves first. They always open the door and let everyone go before them, which is not a bad thing, but when is it your birthday? When do you have fun? And then when they don't get what their heart wants, they tend to get sad and mope about it. And it's like, well, you were trying to be this humanitarian do-gooder and you just left yourself behind. So I think a lot of Sages have abandoned their inner child. Their Migo does not pay attention to their inner child. They're also very intellectual, so they always try to take the high intellectual road. But it doesn't matter how brilliant you are and how educated you are, you still want a cookie. Your heart still wants the love and still wants the attention. So the new Migo for you is to actually change the way you love yourself on the inside. On the inside, not the outside. We'll get to the outside next week, but this week it's about how you treat yourself on the inside. Now, this means that with the Earth in Libra, you have to create a new relationship to yourself of when you're in public. So what you force yourself to do in public is old era. What you accept and tolerate in public is old era. What you push yourself to be with your friends is old era. So it's a whole new relationship to the public side of you, the way you vibrate in the world. There's a new mirage being born there as a result, which is necessary because I think your relationship to the public is quite often your excuse for not loving yourself the way you deserve to be loved. Now, and this is called inner belonging. Now, the path that leads to resistance needs to be with love and creativity. Right now, Sagittarius are getting back on the love horse or the love unicorn because Sagittarius are unicorns. So they're going to marry some beautiful unicorn. It's now time to sort of ease up and take the path of least resistance when it comes to your love life, when it comes to your creative projects. Just take the easy route because you're going through a wormhole right now. So you don't want to put any extra challenges on love or creativity. This is also take the path of least resistance with children. If you can get the job done in an hour, do it. You're not a bad parent. Take the path of least resistance. The reason why you judge yourself as a parent is because you are not a good parent to your inner child. Just saying. Capricorns. Capricorns are finding the way with their attitude and their strategies. Capricorns must find a new peace of mind. If you fall into the worry, the concern, will it work out, being afraid the world's against you, being afraid of going against things, that's the old era. And I got to tell you, Capricorns, your business deals, Pluto and Aquarius, your business is not going to work out if you are doubting. It will also not work out if you are entertaining other people telling you it's not going to work out. You got to blindside this and you got to be focused and find the way of thinking and not let anyone that is in the room get into that way of thinking and not let any of your past get into that way of thinking. That's the only way you can take is to be somewhat blind and just focus on the compassionate attitude that your mind must adopt to receive what it is you want to receive. Now, the sun goes into Aries, and where you are a bit amateur, old era, have a lot of room to grow with your ego is the way you treat your feelings. Capricorns do suffer. They're not cold-hearted, but they like make themselves walk on hot coals. They make themselves, do the hard things, make the hard cold calls. You're not very sensitive to your sensitivity. I'm just saying. And that just makes it harder and disrupts your mind and disrupts your self-worth. So it's time for a whole new Migo on the way you treat your feelings. You've got to baby yourself. I'll put it in Capricorn terms. You got to fly first class. Okay. You got to treat your feelings like first class. Okay. That's the only way you're going to thrive. Now, the Earth in Libra means the way you motivate yourself also has to change. So Capricorn's self-motivation is old era. It needs an upgrade. It is not what we're doing in the modern schools. I'll tell you that right now. It's not how we get the best out of children. I'll tell you that right now. The way you force yourself or what you force yourself to go through to make a decision, this is the area that needs a major upgrade in how you relate to yourself. Now, where it's time to take the path of least resistance is your emotions and your family. Because you're learning how to treat your feelings better, don't cause any waves with your family. Don't pull up the carpet and make everyone change. Just go with the path of least resistance with your home and with your family right now. It's not a time to create a disruption in the home and family. It's time to rework it entirely. So path of least resistance with feelings and with family. All right. Aquarians. The forerunners are now going to find the way with abundance and passive income. It is time to find the way to your wealth. And I do think that Aquariuses need to focus on being wealthy. And I don't think that that is against spirituality. The idea that wealth is anti-spiritual is frankly anti-God. It's not all spiritual, but God created money, didn't she? So it's now time to find the abundance and the way that you are going to make a lot of money. And because of capitalism and greed, if you make a whole lot of money being a light worker, all you do is inspire the rest of the world to go make a lot of money too by being a light worker. So we need you to find the way to your abundance and your passive income. Now, the sun in Aries, which happens on Tuesday night, means that your ego, where your ego is failing you, is in the way you talk to yourself and talk to others, but that's actually a child of how you talk to yourself. So the way you motivate yourself, the way you talk to yourself, this is old era. It's old coachy. It's maybe preachy. Maybe it's judgmental. It's funny. Aquariuses are very like, hey, we're all one, blah, 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 blah. But then an Aquarius will be the first one to call themselves a stupid idiot. It's like really funny. And they think they're being funny, but they're reinforcing that idea. So it's funny. You're super cool when it comes to everything in life, but in your thoughts to yourself, not so cool. And some of you shared it with me what it is. It's old era, kind of a bully. You're kind of a bully to yourself. That's the way to put it on the inside. So time to reboot that Migo. Now, when you reboot that Migo around the way you talk, you need a whole different relationship to believing in yourself. The reason why you don't just have blanket belief in yourself is because the way you bully yourself in your mind. If you were nice to yourself in your mind, you could easier believe that you maybe weren't full of shift. So I think that your relationship to your belief in yourself is old era. It's not age of Aquarius grade. It is age of Pisces grade. And it's time for a whole new relationship in why and how you believe in yourself. And I'll tell you right now, the way to believe in yourself is if your heart feels it's true, then it is. You're going to be putting your butt on the line a lot in the next 20 years, Aquariuses. You're going to be wrong sometimes. Who cares? We're moving past the society that will criticize a person for being wrong once. We're going to embrace the fact that we make lots of mistakes, and that's going to be the new cool. It's not that you messed up, it's that you messed up and you did something about it. Now, the path of least resistance has to be with thoughts and communication. I recommend Aquariuses opt out of arguments, opt out of crass statements on social media. Don't tell them like it is. Just let it go. Let the argument go. Let the proof go. Let the aggression go. Just let it go. Take the path of least resistance in the way you think about it and the way you communicate about it. All right. And then the Pisces, the dream weavers of the new era. It is now time to find the way of your character and your action plan. You are finding a new way of how you behave, a new way of how you respond, new way of how you put yourself out there. And this will be the way. I predict that Pisces are making in the next 2.5 years the characterization that they will be known for when they die. This is your final character upgrade. Every version we've seen of you so far were all based on a past life wound or a past life issue. So we've only seen really past life versions of you. We haven't seen this one. You're about to make the real deal come forward. So it's time to find the way of who your character and action plan is. And by the way, that means you forgive yourself for being a mess all these years or whatever. It's okay. No one's keeping score. It's fine. It's all good. Just accept the new way and how incredible that you are. It's time for Pisces to really wrap up the age of Pisces in a stellar way. Now, your self-worth is old school. So Pisces are still operating in the age of Aries when it comes to self-worth. How many rocks do I have? How beautiful is my wife or my husband? How much money do I have in the bank? These are all old school material versions, egoistic versions of why you are worthy. It's time for you to find the spiritual reason of why you're worthy. It's time to find the feeling of why you're worthy. It's time to identify inside yourself where you are worthy, not try to prove it at all. In fact, when you stop trying to prove it, everyone will actually agree. Take that to the bank from the Taurus. Now, when you come up with this new self-worth based on a higher vibrational worthiness, you're going to realize that your boundaries with yourself are messy. They're not very clean. They're not well thought out. When you draw the line and where you don't draw the line has been very based on you trying to become worthy or not worthy. So because you've been playing the stock market of self-worth, your boundaries with yourself have sort of been based on how to make the most out of yourself, not based on how to be the best version of yourself. So you need a whole new relationship to boundaries, how you identify them, how you enforce them, where they belong. Pisces are going to be kind of a hot mess for this whole month with boundaries, I predict. Because they've always been loosey-goosey with boundaries, which is great. That's why I can get along with every Pisces out there. I love Pisces. But I don't know if it served you the best. So it's time to learn the word no, okay? Now, the last thing is the path of least resistance is with money and values. Right now with money, work, values, just take the path of least resistance. You're upgrading your self-worth, so your soul economy is going to completely change. So it's okay that they're charging you a little bit too much. It's okay you're not being paid what you deserve right now. That's going to change, but not till after the eclipse, in my opinion. So just take the path of least resistance around money, values, and business investments. All righty. All right. And I guess we got David Palmer in the house. Hey, brother. Good to see you, man. So nice of you to drop by from the Leo Kingdom. Roll out the red carpet. We're going to take a little break here. And when I come back, I have Dr. Judy Tsafrir, and we're going to talk about modern psychology meets light work. Keep streaming. This zodiac weather is from Saturday, March 16th to Friday, March 22nd, 2024. Looking ahead at the weekend forecast, over the weekend we are basically wrapping up your new karmic timeline and committing to a new destiny. Let's dive deep. On Saturday, it's sunny and calculating. Step 26 means that Saturn is ruling the day. It'll be a rather serious day. You're ready to commit to your new destiny, and you're going to feel through the strategy. With the moon in Gemini, you are feeling and thinking about that future. On Sunday, it's sunny and sacred. Step 27 means Mars rules the day, so you are feeling the energy to move forward, and what you're moving forward on is the new destiny. That's because the sun conjoins Neptune, connecting heaven to earth and feeling the moral code. This is the first day you launch your new spiritual timeline, and with the moon in Cancer, you are feeling the interchange. Moving ahead to the 5-day weekday forecast. Over the week ahead, we wrap up and test the sun in Pisces and then dive into the sun in Aries, meaning that spring is around the corner. On Monday, it's sunny and receptive. Step 28 indicates that Earth rules the day, so you are manifesting your spiritual transformation and holding space for things to stay on path. With Mercury conjoining the North Node, your mind is also surrendering to the path of least resistance, and with the moon in Cancer, you're feeling your friends and neighbors. On Tuesday, it's sunny and empathetic. Step 29 means Chiron rules the day, so you may be tested on any karmic lesson you learned over the last month of Pisces. Venus in Pisces will oppose Juno in Virgo, which means you will reconcile your new spiritual direction with reality and practices. And the moon moves from Cancer to Leo, so feelings will shift to the heart. And just before midnight East Coast time, the sun enters into Aries. On Wednesday, hump day, it's sunny and sincere. Step 0 Aries means that Pluto rules the day. You're going to draw a line between the old and new. And by old and new, we mean the old me go with the new me go. You're ready to commit to the change. And with Mercury conjoining Chiron, your mind is facing the last time you tried to change. With the moon in Leo, however, you are feeling your heart and courage. On Thursday, it's cloudy and creative. Step 1 means the sun is the ruler of the day. You are aligning the me-go with the heart and accepting your new role. The sun will also sextile Pluto, calling for you to align your me-go with your own self-love initiative. And Venus conjoins Saturn, meaning you're opening up now to a new spiritual integrity within. The moon in the high degrees of Leo has you daydreaming about personal dreams. And then on Friday, it's sunny and hyper-aware. Step 2 means the moon is the ruling planet today, and the moon is in Virgo, so you are feeling everything, the details and everything under the sun. You are also feeling the new me-go, and perhaps the cracks that need to be fixed. We recommend you respond, but not react, and Mars enters into Pisces, which means the ego starts to chill out.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.
Hello and welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented light workers and innovative influencers of our time. A fascinating transformation is happening in our community right now. It's the shift from traditional Western medicine to more holistic and spiritual approaches. And tonight's guest has become a leader in that conversion. Dr. Judy Tsafrir is a holistic healer with a private psychiatry and psychoanalyst practice in Newton, Massachusetts. Although thoroughly trained in conventional allopathic approach to psychiatric care, she no longer endorses it. In fact, she believes that it causes harm. Her multimodal approach that she makes use of with her patients, integrates her conventional training in adult and child psychiatry and psychoanalysis with functional medicine, Eastern medicine, ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, which is known as KAP, Eastern medicine, archetypal psychology, trauma work, shamanism, energy healing, homeopathy, and spiritual herbalism, astrology, tarot, and her commitment to sacred activism. So basically everything but the kitchen sink is going into her practice, which is great. Please send some waves of love and gratitude to help welcome our guest today, Step 9 Libra, sun sign, Dr. Judy Tsafrir. Hello, doctor. So nice to have you on.
Thank you, Christopher. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm excited too. You you have pioneered, and I guess starting from the beginning is always the way I like to start, which is right now in our service, we're working on karma, and karma comes, we say, from our childhood. So what kind of childhood did you have that put you on this scientific self-healing path that later took a hard left towards spirituality?
Well, that is a very deep question.
It'll take a long time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, there's a lot of trauma in my childhood. Both of my parents were survivors of the Holocaust, and there was a
Whoa.
lot of mental illness in my family.
Okay.
And my dad was also a psychiatrist and psychoanalyst and a closet astrologer.
Oh, no
He didn't
kidding.
he
It's
didn't
like
want
his little
anybody to
secret.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want anybody to know about that. That would be, devastating to his reputation. But I was always familiar with astrology because of growing up in the home that I did. And I mean, he really, like the best thing in his mind that anybody could be would be a psychiatrist and psychoanalyst. And because I wanted to be loved, I became that.
Okay.
And but fortunately, it suits me very well. And when I was at the time of my Chiron return,
Mm.
uh,
I love that you know that.
yeah,
That just gives me
I
goosebumps.
I up until that time I had practiced as a fairly conventional psychoanalyst and psychiatrist. Never like one much for prescribing medications, but I was a talking doctor. And at that time, my marriage ended, and I had three small children, and my parents both died within 3 months of each other. And I consulted an astrologer for the first time.
Mm,
And I was totally fascinated by
mm,
what she had to say to me. And I went back to see her multiple times to talk about the charts of everybody in my family.
mm,
And I then resolved that I needed to um, I needed to study this myself and learn about astrology myself. So I studied with Stephen Forrest and then with Maurice Fernandez.
wow.
And
Impressive.
and and that was sort of like almost like a gateway drug for me. Like I just started exploring all kinds of things. I started exploring shamanism and also functional medicine kinds of things. That was just when there was just starting to be talk about the connection between the gut microbiome and the brain. I mean, that was like 2011. And I just started to learn about one thing after another in a very organic way. And so today, like you said, everything but the kitchen sink. Well, that's true. Every single thing that I have explored and learned about, I have to offer when it feels like it's what my patient needs.
Mm.
And that's what my book is about, all the different things that I have learned about and have included in my practice.
Okay, and so yeah, and that's and just to talk about your book right now, it's called Sacred Psychiatry, correct?
Hmm.
And so tell us, since you brought it up, tell us what it's about so we can keep it in mind as we talk tonight. Is
Okay,
it
so
is it you coming out of the closet to your
well,
fellow
I've been out of
doctors?
the closet, like it's on my website that I'm an astrologer and a tarot reader.
Hmm.
So I've been out of the closet for quite a while, but I mean, it is something more to write a book.
Yeah.
But so the beginning of the book is about the astrological context that we find ourselves in now, like what's going on astrologically on the planet. Um,
Hmm.
and it's a time of, tremendous stress and transformation. And
Yes.
there's a lot of fear. And so the premise of the book is that we need all of the tools to create resilience, um, to deal with these times. And so I talk about all the kinds of different things that a person can do in order to meet these times most effectively. And the heart of the book is a chapter that's called Developing a Multi-Modal, a Multi-Dimensional Sense of the Self. And that has to do with developing a spiritual practice
Hmm.
because I mean, most people in this culture have no idea about how to go about that. And
Yeah.
it's really kind of what is ailing our world that we're so divorced from the sacred.
Yes.
And so I have like many, many different ideas about what people can do to help them tune in and to feel connected.
Brilliant. And one could say science is part of that disconnection. I mean, both science and religion. Religion horribly abuse people. I have so many clients who have past life religious trauma, and then
Mm.
that was echoed in their childhood by being forced to go to, church, or even the church doing something wrong. So the church is to blame for disconnecting from spirit, but science also to some degree. Um, how does it work with your colleagues in the sense of you moving down these other paths? Is it something that's becoming more accepted now? Is it something you just there's people you tell,
Really?
your people you don't?
No, it's really not. I mean,
Not accepted?
not accepted. No, I mean,
Okay.
astrology is just considered just not anything that um, has any validity.
Mhm.
It's so. I mean, I think I'm basically kind of like. I mean, I'm like highly credentialed and
Yeah.
belong to like prestigious institutions, but I'm kind of ignored, or it's like they don't see me really.
Okay. Right. But you must have seen in your own practice just walking in, having a chart of a client. I mean, tell us the difference between before you found astrology in your practice and after, and how you approach the client.
Well, before I found astrology, I mean, my single modality was really talking. And I was good at that, and I still am, and it's still very important. And it's incredibly important to have insight into the ways in which a person's childhood is continuing to impact them as an adult. Like, that's very valuable and a very important thing to talk with patients about. But there's so much more. There's so much more to us than just our personality selves.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, astrology allows one to have like this kind of sacred blueprint about, what a person life purpose is, why they came here, what their strengths and weaknesses are. I mean, it's some kind of third sort of like objective thing to refer to. And you can see ways in which like a person is not living up to their potential, like maybe you see in their chart that it's just loaded with creative artistic energy, but they're not accessing that. And you can mention that
Mm-hmm.
to them, or that
Right.
there's like some, big indication of leadership and that they're not aware of that about themselves, but it's
Hmm.
there in their birth chart.
Yeah.
But I mean, as I said, the astrology led me to, I mean, it led me to many other different modalities, but I mean, astrology, the premise is that there's something going on that we do not understand, that there is a mystery at work, that something that we can't explain, that the position of the planets is having this profound impact upon events in human life, on the planet, and on the person's personality and character. So just the very fact of the reality of astrology and observing that just changes the paradigm to begin with in such a profound way.
Indeed. And what are your thoughts now that you have both the scientific mind and the, we'll say, astral plane mind? Do you personally have a theory of how astrology might work?
I don't know how it works. I
Me
don't
either.
know how it works, but I see that it does, in such important ways. And it's like such an amazing tool and such a gift, really, to have an understanding of it. I mean, not how it works, but that it does.
Yeah. I think it's a hidden secret. I'm personally stunned that we haven't integrated into schools and getting along at work. Just so many things. They're right, all that information right at our fingertips, and yet we are just blindly walking by.
And not even that, but really actively contemptuous of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Um, so your move from pure science Western to astrology came around your Chiron return, you said. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
I'm
Yes.
curious. I'm curious what you think about your Chiron, but in your bio that you provide us, you said that there's an overlap between the mythological figure of Chiron and your personal Chiron journey. Can you explain what that overlap is?
Well, I mean, there's many overlaps between Chiron and I. Um, I mean, Chiron was the product of like tremendous trauma. Like in his case, he was the product of a rape. Zeus assumed the form. The myth goes that he assumed, and there's many versions of it. He assumed the form of a stallion and chased a nymph named Philyra, who changed herself into a mare, and he impregnated her. And then Chiron was born, and he was a centaur, half horse, half human. And Philyra, when she saw him, was so disgusted and horrified that she rejected him and abandoned him. And he was adopted by Apollo, and Apollo's sister Diana raised him, and they gave him the most fabulous education. He was trained in astrology and mathematics and music and herbalism. He was a great healer. And the Greek kings sent their sons to be educated by him. He was a mentor. And then the myth goes that Hercules accidentally shot an arrow the tip had the blood of the Hydra on it, and Chiron sustained a wound that could not be healed, and he was in unending agony. And he couldn't die either because he was half god. And so he was put up, he offered out of altruism to exchange places with Prometheus who had been chained to a rock, and an eagle came daily to peck out his liver, and he was, in this state of great suffering, and Chiron exchanged places with him. And then the gods were so moved by his altruism that they released him as well, and he was put up in the sky as a constellation. So how does that relate to myself?
Yeah. Is it the pecking of the liver? What was it?
Well, okay, so this isn't funny. My mother was really depressed when she was pregnant with me. And yeah, and when I was born, she said I was an ugly baby. And she went on to be psychiatrically hospitalized. And my grandmother took care of me, and then eventually she returned and cared for me. But Chiron is half horse and half human. And I have become increasingly aware, and this has been true for me from the point of my Chiron return, and it becomes ever more clear to me that I am not just a human being, but I'm a spiritual being. So I'm like half and half.
Oh. Mm.
And as we all are. And also, I feel that one is really saved by being of service to other people. Like that's really how we elevate ourselves, and
Yeah.
um, what brings us like the greatest joy and satisfaction. At least it does for me, and I think it does for many people.
Hmm.
Um, and beyond that, I think all of us have wounds that cannot be healed. Like, I mean, I'll never be like completely healed of some kind of sense of rejection. Like it took me 10 years to write the book. And
Wow.
what I came to was like that I was treating my book like an ugly baby. You
Oh,
know, like,
interesting.
yeah. So um Ram Dass had this saying that, we don't really like get over our traumas, but we become a connoisseur of them. So like what your deal is, so that you don't have to like respond to it in some unconscious way. It can kind of lose its charge. Um, but you
Mm.
don't like all of us have things that I don't think can be entirely just evaporated, healed stuff that's happened, but you learn to process it and deal with it and have a different relationship to it. And that's what therapy can be helpful for, and spiritual
Totally.
practice.
Chiron's interesting. I mean, I started off not even knowing about Chiron as an astrologer, and then I learned about Chiron somewhere along the path. And then I downloaded what I call the step system, which is assigning a number to each of the planets in an order. But Chiron's 11 in this system, which is what you end up becoming. And therefore, what we end up becoming is our wound in this lifetime. We become our wound. And I noticed that I didn't even notice my Chiron wound for a long time. My subconscious was doing so much to avoid that Chiron issue. I had just been planning my life around it and not even knowing I've been planning my life around it. It was, it's profound to understand that. And I'm on the other side of my Chiron return, and the difference I can't even tell you of just the relief that happens when you finally can let it go. But it never dies, because that's what I think they call the wounded healer. Because once you've been wounded, then you're going around helping everyone who has that issue. Like you never forget it. It really never goes
No,
away.
right.
Yeah.
And but it can become also kind of the source of your genius and strength. I mean,
Mm.
um, I like in the efforts to heal myself and the efforts to, you know, kind of understand what was wrong with my family. Um, I just learned so many different things, and then I can offer them to other people.
Yeah. Interesting. So are you Chiron centric then in your practice? Like
Yeah.
is that
Well,
the
many
first thing
people
you look at?
come to see me at the time of their Chiron return. It's just
No
so
kidding.
frequent that, a
Wow.
person is like 48, 49, 50. That's when they show up. Yeah.
Interesting. So you become a by default specialist. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it's interesting. I was going to call the book Chironic Psychiatry, and my publisher said that's not a good title.
yeah.
They said people will think you misspelled chronic. And
Yeah. That's a fair.
and so like sacred psychiatry is a better title, but it really is chironic psychiatry, just in terms of there's nothing that can be left out. Like in order to heal, you need to consider a person from so many different angles.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, I personally believe that Chiron is the authentic ruler of Virgo.
Mm.
I don't believe Virgo's ruled by Mercury. I don't believe planets split two time any signs. But when you look at all the things you're talking about with Chiron and the story of the genius mathematics, overcompensating, and then having that wound, and then still sacrificing self despite the wound, to me, that's very Virgo.
It
And
is of service. I mean, that's one of the biggest qualities of Virgo, is to be of service. I mean, I think there's a good argument to be made for that. I mean, people also could make the argument about Sagittarius as like the centaur, right?
yeah,
But I mean, his
that's true.
character isn't as much like it as Virgo.
Yeah. Yeah. they must have hung out together, but there's some overlap for sure. Um, so when a patient seeks your help, you know, they come in obviously because they're struggling, I'm assuming, with something in their life.
Mhm.
How does your approach incorporate both these sides of Western and spiritual
Right.
and
So,
sacred? We'll use the word sacred.
right. So, I mean, I have a specialty in treating complex chronic medical illness that presents psychiatrically. So sometimes
Oh
patients
wow.
come to see me who have seen multiple doctors and people can't figure out what's wrong with them. And they say, you know, these symptoms don't match any kind of pattern that makes any kind of sense to us. Uh, you must be stressed. You must be depressed. You must be anxious. You know, you should see a psychiatrist. And
Right.
this can be very invalidating because the person is having all kinds of physical symptoms.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that the physical symptoms are unrelated to stress. There is a huge stress component. I mean, most people on the planet today are pretty stressed unless they have a very robust spiritual practice and are having excellent self-care. Um,
Hmm.
but there are conditions that have to do with the physical body. One of them is called mast cell activation, and there are treatments for mast cell activation. And so I'm drawing upon like a Western approach when I treat mast cell activation. But in addition to that, I'm talking with people about, well, I'm definitely, I mean, when I have a conversation with a patient before I agree to see them, I try to assess their level of motivation because I really don't want to try to work with someone who doesn't want to change their diet. You know, it's just silly. You know, like a person needs to have a anti-inflammatory diet if they're serious about addressing their psychiatric symptoms because the symptoms are, you know, psychospiritual, but they're also like cellular. They're in their body. So they
Hmm.
need to have, you know, a good diet. There's something that's called limbic system retraining that has to do with the limbic system of the brain, which is a deep structure in the brain that's related to trauma and the autonomic nervous system and fight or flight. So there are programs that can be downloaded from the internet that retrain the brain, and they do that with exercises and guided meditations. And I recommend that to almost everybody. There's one that's called the Gupta program. There's another one that's called Primal Trust. And they're very good for calming down the nervous system because when a person is in a state of stress and anxiety, there's like a feedback loop between their emotional life and those mast cells, which then um, behave in a chaotic way and cause lots of terrible symptoms.
Mm.
So, I mean, I'm using everything.
Yeah, you are. And as far as stress in the body, you're talking about non-inflammation foods. So you're dealing with people coming in with physical symptoms, like physical,
Yes.
they're presenting physical symptoms quite often, which I think is, I love that you're moving into that territory because, yeah, when you go to the doctor and you have a certain symptom, they're just like, huh, well, tell me if it keeps happening. It's like, wait a second, it has been happening. Like there's sort of a brush off, must be your imagination, must be stress. There's never a correlation between our own energy and the physical for one. So the fact that you're making that bridge is profound. The other aspect that I know from Chiron in my astrology study is Chiron is what almost always leads to disease. As far as the Chiron placement in the chart, that Chiron is what we end up becoming. The body is the embodiment of our issues. So, 9 out of 10 times I find if my client is dealing with a physical issue, I can usually focus it around some transit around Chiron itself, which I find interesting too. That you're going on that same path. As far as stress is concerned and inflammation, it seems like we're being bombarded with stuff all over the place when it comes to stress and inflammation, isn't it?
Yes, totally. And I mean, there's so much toxicity in the environment, and some people are very sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies.
Yeah.
And I mean, the news cycle is causing so much stress, which, then like elevates people's cortisol levels and then causes inflammation. You cannot like parse it out. It's not like the mind, the body, the emotions, the spirit. It's all like intertwined.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you take this holistic approach then, or this where you coach them with their diet and the way they frame their consciousness. Is that like a two-handed approach that you take?
Well, their diet, and then, if they're having lots of physical symptoms, I might test them for mold toxicity because that's one of the most frequent causes in my practice of mast cell
Wow.
activation.
Wow.
But some people, I believe that people who have long COVID, it's like mediated by the mast cells. Um, but, I'm also, very interested in talking with people about their childhood and the way it's continuing to impact them today.
Mm.
Um, I'm interested in a person's like how are they connected with their community and what's their
Mm.
social support structure like? Like when people are lonely, it causes tremendous stress, when
Yeah.
they feel alienated. So, and it's just incredibly important for people to develop a spiritual practice where they can connect and they can um, have a sense of feeling of oneness. And like I have like different little lectures that I give people about, you know, how to go about this.
Hmm. And what is, coming from your perspective, how do you introduce, let's say, a person who has no spiritual connection whatsoever? What are the first steps you usually introduce them to spirituality? Is it mindfulness, meditation?
No, like one of the things that I talk with patients about is Angeles Arian, who was a cultural anthropologist who went around the world studying cultures around the world and observing like what were their spiritual practices and figuring out what were the commonalities between them. So
Mm.
she identified three, and the first one was prayer, and
Mm.
the second one was gratitude, and the third one was like sacred action.
Mm.
So sacred action can be anything that you do that like really do that increases the amount of goodness or beauty in the world,
Okay.
something that is like something that you can do. Um, and so prayer, like Annie Lamott is an author. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she wrote a
Mhm.
book that was, she's written books about writing, but she's also written a lot of books about spirituality. And one of the books that she wrote is called Help, Wow, Thanks. And that's the three essential prayers. So help.
Okay.
So like, like people don't know that they can ask for help, that they
I
can
know.
like say, like, please, ancestors, please, spirit guides, please help me, please guide me, please show me the way. And I encourage them to like ask for help and to ask for help out loud. Um, and then I talk with them. This all sounds like way kooky, but I talk with them about the spirits really liking reciprocity and
Mhm.
um, that spirits don't just want to be asked for help, they also want to be thanked. And one of the ways that you can give thanks materially is to make offerings. So to like find a beautiful tree that you love or a body of water and take some flax seeds or some rice or some lentils and throw it into the water and say, thank you. Say, please help me, please guide me, please show me the way. So to ask for help, to ask for guidance, and then, like a gratitude practice. There's tons of actual scientific evidence about gratitude practices and people who do that, who write down three things every night before they go to sleep about what they were grateful for during the day. After 3 months, their scores on happiness measurement scales are way higher than people who don't do that.
Oh,
Gratitude increases your sense of happiness. So talk with them about gratitude, um, and then talk with them about, what can they do to uplift another person? Like what are like actions they can take. Sometimes I encourage people to make donations, like if they um, are like wanting something to happen, make a donation, and act as though it already happened and give thanks for it, you know. I encourage people to make altars and tell them about how do you make an altar. Like you don't need a whole room. You can just take a corner of your room and put down a beautiful cloth and a few objects that are meaningful to you, just something that reminds you of the sacred aspect of yourself. Because when people don't do that, they just get ground down by the daily grind of life. And they
Yeah.
don't, it just makes things really hard when you don't have a sense of connection with something greater than yourself.
Yeah, I love that you see that from a clinical perspective, from your background, seeing it as a scientist. And actually, I love the way you described all your spiritual perspective there. Because not once did I feel triggered with religion
Hmm.
or shame or a finger pointing at me or, in some cases, there's been some zealots that have just sort of scared away people from the concept altogether. So and the gratitude's very interesting too. I have to say, there's something about it energetically. I don't know what it
Totally.
is. It's like it puts you in a posture of receiving. I don't know. Can't describe it, but when you sort of bow and you're grateful, you're sort of bowing your crown, and you're in a place to actually receive. I feel like gratitude is the attitude of receiving. It's the best way to receive from anything, including the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I talk with patients about blessing their food.
Oh, you
Like it makes
do.
such a difference, before you eat, to just stop for a second, say, wow, thank you. Thank you for this beautiful food. Thank you for whoever cooked it. Thank you for my pets. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my family. Thank you for my patients. Just to stop a minute and bless the food. It's just so different than just like eating it.
Yeah.
Like to spiritualize your life, like that just adds like a whole layer of beauty and richness.
Yes. And kindness too to self too. Um,
Kindness to self and to others.
yeah. And if people are motivated by kindness to self, it just I think I teach self compassion and self love
Hmm.
just because I find it will naturally spread into life. I don't have to tell people to be compassionate to others if they're compassionate themselves. They just do it. It's a natural expansion. So
Yeah.
we have this shaming. So where would you say you're in disagreement with the conventional approach to psychiatric symptoms?
In just a very big way that, well, see, just talking about symptoms to begin with, like it's like, okay, is somebody depressed? Okay, I have a checklist. How's their sleep? Are they interested in things? How's their energy? How's their concentration? Are they suicidal? How's their appetite? Are they slowed down? Okay, yes, they're depressed. Okay, now what drug am I going to pick?
Yeah.
Like that's the paradigm. Like identify symptoms, create a diagnosis, and pick a pharmaceutical or a procedure, you know. But
Yeah.
nothing about like, why is this person having this? Like, where is this coming from? Is there some kind of underlying treatable cause? Um, what other modalities could we think about before reaching for the prescription pad?
Right. Yeah.
And the medications are not a free lunch. I mean, there's a chapter in the book about weaning from medications because people come to see me, and there's a very low threshold for prescribing medications, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medicines,
Yep.
and patients are not warned that they may have a very hard time getting off of them. I mean, I have patients with literal PTSD from withdrawal symptoms
Yep.
from the medications. And, one patient I remember was living in this fear state that something would happen with the medication supply. I mean, I've had a couple of patients like this because
Yep.
they have had experiences of withdrawal that were so painful and terrible that they're just in a fear state about it. Um,
Mhm.
And there's a way of weaning that was not taught to me. What I was taught was, okay, you can reduce the medication by 25%, by half, then another 25%, and stop it, like very quickly. That very often does not work for people.
Yep.
Like when somebody comes to see me and they want to get off medicine, I say, okay, first we're going to like clean up your diet. Then I want you to do some like limbic system retraining, calm down your nervous system. And then when things are kind of in place that way, then we're going to reduce by 10% a month. And if that's too much, then we're going to reduce by 5% a month. And sometimes, very often the medicine needs to be compounded. Like you can't get it at Walgreens or CVS. You have to get it compounded to have these like very small dose reductions. And
Yes.
that's successful. That works that way. But if you just try to like cut it in half, or cut it by 25%, they really can, have like very uncomfortable symptoms.
Oh yeah, horribly. I mean, and you're
Hmm.
you're told if you're coming off a psychiatric drug, the symptoms are suicidal tendencies and ideation. It's just like that's helping me. Like,
Right. Or that the person has these withdrawal symptoms. They say, see, you need to be on the medicine. We should restart it again.
yes, or double the we don't have the right dosage. We need to crank up how much we're putting in. It's obviously not enough. Yeah, it's
No, it's a
terrifying.
very broken paradigm, and it's the same in other fields of medicine as well. I mean, it's all about identifying symptoms and then prescribing pharmaceuticals. And, there's like algorithms that doctors are obliged to follow. And if they don't, then they're not going to if they didn't offer a statin, if the person has a certain cholesterol number, which they're always lowering to say that's the threshold when it needs to be prescribed, they won't get reimbursed by the insurance company.
Wow.
So it's it is such a mess. And yeah, like there are just so many other things that could be done preventatively um, to help a person's immune system be more robust and make them not as vulnerable to um, infection or chronic illness.
Yeah. We're very unhealthy right now. What are your thoughts about just the idea of a diagnosis? It's like this idea that we diagnose, it sort of seems like a kind of a mental affirmation prison. Like once you believe that you are sick, you sort of go down this rabbit hole of the consequences and giving up your life. And I'm not so convinced in a diagnosis, lasting. There's this idea that once you're sick, you're always sick. And once you have that in your mind, oh, I've been diagnosed with this disease, it sort of closes the door to the idea that I would ever overcome it, I would ever heal from it. And my mind then perpetuates that idea that I am sick and living under that professional diagnosis, which will happen 20 minutes. You talk to a doctor, you'll get in front of a doctor for 20, 25 minutes tops. And in 20 minutes, they're writing prescription drugs that, that have a hard time, like you said, weaning off of. They literally warn you on the label not to wean off of without talking to a doctor. You're right. You can't get small doses of it to wean. They can't write you a prescription for 1 milligram. You know, how does a diagnosis play into your ideas of health?
Well, I mean, there's also a lot of misdiagnosis, like
Yes.
especially in psychiatry, like it's really common for a patient to be diagnosed as bipolar. That's
Yes.
very often it's not accurate. Some people do have bipolar disorder, but there are people who have trauma and who have
Yeah.
like significant dysregulation of their emotions. They aren't able to kind of manage their feelings and um, or they have mast cell activation and they're having um, like tons of mast cells degranulating and they look like they have panic disorder and then they're because it creates all this anxiety and then they're put on medications. I mean, but it's interesting. There's some people who really want diagnoses. Like I've seen
Mm-hmm.
people who just are so relieved to say that they qualify for being on the autism spectrum. Like it gives them like a big explanation about why they feel as they feel. So people
Yeah.
have different reactions and responses to it. But I'm always very suspicious. Like on my intake form, I say, what diagnosis have you been given? Do you agree?
Oh,
As
wow.
yeah,
That's very cool.
because and sometimes people get diagnosed as bipolar, and really what they had was like a drug-induced state, like they had some kind of, very bad reaction to cannabis or
Mm,
something else that they ingested. But then they get psychiatrically hospitalized and started on lithium. And then, once you're like on that train, it's hard to get off.
yes, it is. Um, and you bring up a very powerful point, emotion. And that's something I teach in my practice here is we have no coping skills. We're never taught how to manage our emotion. We're told to suppress our feelings. We're told we're girls if we're boys for having feelings. We're told we're crybabies if we're girls. It's like we're shamed around our feelings. And it's been my experience, for instance, with cancer diagnosis in astrology, as you well know, there's many things that show when the client has repressed their feeling. And most of my cancer surviving clients had the karma of repressed emotion in their chart, something I noticed, where the repressed emotion led to dis-ease and whatnot. So how much is our illness just us not having the coping skills with emotions?
Well, I think it's all interrelated, like very much. It's just impossible to separate out these things,
Yeah.
and you know, when a person is having like strong feelings and is feeling stressed, very stressed and distressed, they're putting out a lot of cortisol, and then they're having inflammation in their body. And when inflammation is linked with cancer, it's all linked together.
It's all like, what's the relationship between chronic illness and emotional and physical trauma that
Oh,
you,
that's huge. That's huge. Like there's like studies about the rate of chronic medical and psychiatric illness correlated with like an ACE score, adverse childhood experiences. So the more adverse childhood experiences a person has had, the higher their vulnerability to medical and psychiatric illness in adulthood. And I think it has everything to do with the immune system that gets damaged through like all of that stress and trauma, and the
okay.
neuroendocrine system. Yep, it's totally linked.
Okay. So we end up, all that stressful childhood ends up breaking down the very mechanisms the body has to fight disease. And so you just sort of go into adulthood already kind of handicapped to some degree.
Right, and that's like why like that limbic system retraining is just like a cornerstone of what I recommend to people. They just
What
need
is
to
that
calm.
with the system retraining?
It's like a series of different kinds of brain retraining exercises where there's different kinds of practices that you can do that, identify like thoughts that are causing you stress, and then physical practices that you can do to um, respond to them and to get some kind of distance from them. And there's guided meditations that calm down your system. And the primal trust has a lot of vagal system retraining. The vagus nerve is um, the rest and digest. And when a
Mm,
person vagus nerve gets when you tone it and get it stronger, it helps a person calm down their body. So you just need to calm down the body,
yes. Hmm.
but it's done through, connecting with the mind and the emotions.
They can control
But
that.
then when the body is calmed down, like there's just so much more potential for healing.
And it seems like nothing in modern society is based on calm. TV, internet, flashing, everything is just so, and the foods too. I mean, just recently, I'm going to knock Starbucks, but there's something in Starbucks coffee that's not in other coffee. And it makes me nervous and it makes me, edgy. And it's not caffeine because I've had coffee in other places. So they say it's the mold. But the point is, even some of this is, a lot of what we're eating, I think is causing a lot of anxiety and nervousness just from the chemicals.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. And but it's not only that. I mean, certain people have like intolerances to certain foods. And
Right.
there are certain foods that are like top allergens. So gluten is a top allergen, dairy
Mm,
is a top allergen, eggs, soy, nuts and seeds, nightshade vegetables. Those are like the peppers and eggplants and
mm,
potatoes. And, like if you're not a person who has the nightshade intolerance, those are perfectly healthy food. And if, you're not a person who has an intolerance to eggs, that's a healthy food. I mean, it's, it's my experience that most people are better off avoiding gluten and dairy. Like most people feel
mm,
better when they do that. Like I don't think they're inherently um, that healthy for people. Um,
mm.
they cause a lot of cause of anxiety and depression in people. Um, so it's not only that, there's all these toxins in the food and genetically modified food and pesticides, but people do have like specific food intolerances. Um, like when I eat certain nuts and seeds, like my sleep goes, and so you have to become like aware of yourself and your body
Mm-hmm.
and know, you know, what you react to, or if you are reacting to something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really be
Like,
aware of what you're
yeah, you
eating.
identified that Starbucks coffee is like not for you.
No, yep, that's one. It's
Yeah.
a million more now to go through. What is your opinion on this explosion of autoimmunity happening cases right now?
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's like all of the toxins in the environment and potentially the electromagnetic frequencies. I mean, some people are really sensitive to them, and
mm,
they're ubiquitous. They're fairly impossible to avoid unless you move to um like some kind of like EMF free zone in West Virginia, like you can't get away from them. So you need to do like this limbic system retraining to get your system desensitized to reacting to them. But it's the electromagnetic frequencies, it's the toxins, it's the stress. Like that's how I see that there's like so much more vulnerability to that now.
so when people come in seeking help from you, are you finding that a large percentage of the issue is not mental dis-ease, but rather biological triggers and and other
It's you can't
things?
you can't separate it out. It's
Okay.
the biology, it's the childhood, it's the world, it's our culture, it's it's just everything. It's having no spiritual practice, having no community, um, being in toxic relationships. I have a chapter in my book about energy vampires. Like
Oh,
there's you know, when a person is in a relationship with someone who is, um, you know, not treating them with love and respect, then, they become very stressed. And
yeah.
nobody can heal when they're in that kind of, exposed in some kind of constant way to that kind of environment. So that's also a really important piece.
Yeah. Interesting. Um, where do you feel like it seems like it's such a mess? So speaking to you like a politician, like, it seems like we're at a point where the world is so toxic that we're going to have to, I mean, do you have a theory on how we pull this plane up as far as society is concerned?
I really don't know, like, I mean, I think individually, each of us can do the most that we can to elevate our own vibration and
Mm-hmm.
to devote ourselves with our greatest kind of passion and creativity to creating the world to be the kind of place that we want it to be in our own small way, in our own small circle.
Yeah.
But it's just that things are so out of whack and so destructive, and we're just so terribly abusing the earth that it just cannot continue this way. And it doesn't seem as though there's like political will or that people can in any kind of way come together in terms of a planet to take the kind of global action that we would need to take to shift things. And I mean, from like a 3D perspective, it looks like there's going to need to be like collapse and catastrophe before people are going to be willing or able or forced to do something different. But I am praying that that will not be the case, that somehow we're going to awaken and that somehow there's going to be some kind of miracle that I couldn't like point evidence for in 3D reality that that's going to happen, but that I'm holding out that possibility because I'm not going to be saying, yes, it's, doomsday and curtains. I think that's kind of like abracadabra, like you don't want to say stuff like that. You don't want to cast a spell that things cannot be healed and we can't course correct. We don't know what's going to happen. It doesn't look good, but
Right. It's definitely a cliffhanger. Um,
yeah.
you obviously are into astrology. Are there any astrological things that you're watching right now in the skies that bring alarm to you?
Well, I mean, you never know what things are going to mean. You don't know what things are going to mean. I mean, I'm very interested to see what is going to be, um, how it's going to play out with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that's coming up. Like what kind of potential download or shift in consciousness or surprise or something unexpected might be coming down the pike with that. Like that
Mm.
seems like a very amazing potential, expansive, could be very transformative.
Hmm. Yeah, and it happens at
Um,
21 degrees. I'm a degree expert, so 21 is the number of Jupiter. So it happens to be what Jupiter's best at. So I'm very excited about that. I wouldn't be surprised if some discovery happens at that time.
I'm wondering about something with technology, something with extraterrestrials,
Mm.
like, I mean,
Wow.
it's just something very unexpected, something like outside the box, something that is like very hard to imagine.
Hmm. Yeah, beyond
Uh,
our,
yeah,
yeah.
so there's that. And then I guess it's maybe February 2025, the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries at 0 degrees Aries. Is that right? February
Yeah.
2025. So
Yeah.
I'm curious about that.
Yep. And zero is a
Like
very fascinating number too. The fact that it
right,
happens at zero, the very beginning of it. Yeah. It
zero
speaks.
and zero Aries,
Yeah.
right? The head of the zodiac, right? So
Yeah.
that's the very beginning of the beginning, like some new beginning, something new. There's an astrologer. Um, his name was Andre Barbeau. He was like a French astrologer. I forget when he died, maybe like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but he was like a master at mundane astrology. He predicted the pandemic.
Mm.
Um, but he believed that Saturn Neptune conjunction will be some kind of like high point of the century in terms of some kind of flowering of civilization. Now, I mean, that seems like that's not very far off. And how could that happen? I don't know. But I mean, Saturn, Neptune, like it could be like a dissolving of structures. It could be like imagining like a new structure. Like who
Hmm.
knows? Like you can thematically predict, but not
Right.
like what exactly is going to happen.
Hmm.
But I mean, I think there's been a lot of like bad things that have happened when Saturn and Neptune have been in Aries together, like wars and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But I'm hoping for something else, and I'm praying for something else. I'm praying for some kind of um, some kind of spiritualizing of our structure of society.
A
Some new
spiritual movement,
beginning.
perhaps. Yeah.
Mhm.
Some sort of an activate. Well, the Neptune can be kind of whimsical and, you know, abandon you in fantasy, but Saturn brings it down to a practicality of responsibility, and Aries brings in action. So you have spiritual ascension with Neptune, you have responsibility with Saturn, you have action with Aries. So it's very promising.
May it be so.
Yeah, it may be. I personally am very optimistic about the future. I have no reason to be looking at it
Right.
scientifically, but I've always just felt like, just you wait. We're going to turn this ship around. That's always been my attitude since I was a boy. Um, Pluto Aquarius is exciting to me, just to trade notes, because I feel like Aquarius is our frequency level, and we have fallen in such a low frequency energetically. And I feel my belief is that Pluto sort of closes the door or kills things off. So I feel like as Pluto moves up through Aquarius, we're killing off these lower frequencies, and making it more difficult to live there, if you will. So it sort of pushes everyone slowly up. But Pluto's like a noose. It's just slowly, or it's just like a crank. It's just slowly pushing you closer, like a shoreline dissolving. So it's slow, but I do think it's promising. Last time Pluto was in Aquarius was the American Revolution. Last time Neptune was in Aries was the American Civil War.
Mhm.
Last time Uranus was in Gemini was World War II. So it doesn't look good. At least I can laugh about it. Right.
Mm.
But I'm personally an optimist about it all. I also see in your work, you also work with ketamine, which has become
Yes.
really popular recently, which is a cat tranquilizer originally, is it not? I mean, I don't know much about it, but did it start as a tranquilizer, if I'm mistaken about
Um, I don't know it as a cat tranquilizer. I know it as an anesthetic
it? Mm,
that was used a lot in pediatrics because it's so safe. It
okay.
was like a buddy drug in Vietnam in terms of soldiers carrying it in case their comrades were injured. Um,
Oh, interesting. I didn't know
mm.
that.
And it's on the list of World Health Organization's most essential medications.
No kidding. See, I only knew
Yes.
it from drug abuse on the street. Like when
Yeah.
I,
So, well, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it has abuse potential. It's not addictive, but it has abuse potential.
yeah.
But it can really be enormously helpful. And I've been using it in my practice a lot with people who have an interest in like patients who have like anxiety and depression that is resistant to other ways of trying to help them, like somebody who constantly is like ruminating. Like the ketamine can just shift things. Unfortunately, like it's not like so far, and I don't have tons of experience with it. I've only been doing it for like a year. Um, it doesn't hold, like every couple of months we'll have to do another session. Um,
Mm.
but it really does shift things. And this person that I'm thinking of really is just feels so much better and is just transformed by the effect of the ketamine. And I've had it be helpful for people who are having addiction and having trouble resisting like whatever it is that they're addicted to, marijuana, that it helps them with that. It's good for psychospiritual growth.
Hmm.
Like I have patients who have done a series of ketamine with me, and they just feel like they're not sweating the small stuff in the same way. Um, it can be very heart opening, can really increase like a sense of connection. And I do it in that's when I'm my most shamanic, when I'm doing the ketamine work. I'll do it in a ceremonial and sacred way and invite in the ancestors and spirits and set up an altar. And um, it's been a great addition to my practice.
That's a wonderful news to hear that. I saw it sort of rise on the scene. Again, I only knew it like from my 20s. It was being used in party settings. They called it Special K. And so I had a prejudice to it. But even now they're using like mushrooms in some cases, right? Or the
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so helpful for people like with trauma, with cancer, with fear of end of life kinds of things. I mean, the psychedelics are just, I think it's the greatest thing that could really transform medicine and consciousness. Can be used in a very, and I'm not talking about using it recreationally, I'm talking
Yeah.
about using it in a ceremonial and sacred way. Um,
Honoring it and respecting it. Yeah.
yeah, really honoring and respecting it.
Hmm. Just out of curious, like psilocybin, right? This comes from mushrooms. Is
Yep.
that pharmaceutically derived now, or is it happening from mushrooms? Have we gone synthetic with those things? I'm just curious.
I don't really know. I think I just read something about some kind of synthetic psilocybin that, geez, what was it? It was being used in some way that was really surprising to me, but I don't remember now what it was. And I think it was some kind of synthetic version that was being used in some drug trial. But um, yeah, I don't really know. I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's my only worry is that here we find God has a cure, and then we synthesize it, trademark it, patent it, and make the organic illegal. Like see,
Right. Or like there's been attempts to like have the therapeutic effect of it, but try and like subtract the psychedelic portion of it, like the spiritual or the psychospiritual portion of it.
right.
And I just it's everything, like eat the ketamine, like ketamine clinics have sprung up around high dose ketamine and no follow up with like integration. Like I do it at a lower dose and I see patients in between sessions for integration where we talk about what happened and um, integrate it into like how they're thinking about things and what did they learn from it. And there's none of that happens. It's just, it becomes like this, another way to make a buck.
Yeah, you can get out of control that way. You
Mhm.
brought up mast cell activation syndrome. Would you tell us what that is? You brought it up a couple of times, and I forgot to drill down in that moment. We just went different
Yeah,
directions, but it
yeah.
seems to be prevalent in your work.
Yeah, very. It's so common in people and they don't recognize it. It's not recognized commonly. So the mast cells are white cells. They're just, everybody has mast cells. They're part of the immune system. And we have the highest concentration of them in the areas of the body that interface with the environment, which makes sense because that's where like you could potentially have a pathogen or invader come. So we have the highest concentration of them like in the lungs that interfaces with the air and the environment, or in the gut, which interfaces with the
Right.
food. And so the mast cells we have them all over the body. Um, and they contain granules that have these bioactive substances in them. Like the most prominent one is histamine. Um,
Okay.
but there's also serotonin and other kind of bioactive substances. And so in a person who is not having a problem, let's say there's some virus that comes and then the mast cells come and they release their substances and they kind of neutralize what the problem is. But in people who have a problem, mast cell activation syndrome, those mast cells are coming and they're releasing like too many of their substances in a chaotic way. And it can cause, all kinds of, asthma and, diarrhea and cystitis and headaches and skin stuff, and just all different organ systems can be affected by the mast cells. And there's treatments for it where you can stabilize the mast cells and help them not degranulate as easily.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
there's natural treatments and pharmaceuticals that can be used for that.
So the body's immune system is almost over responding. Is that my understanding?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And
yes.
why is it that they're over responding now that versus in the 60s? Like,
Well, I mean, I don't know that it wasn't over responding in the 60s, but it just wasn't recognized.
okay.
But I mean, there's
Sure.
so many different, like mast cell activation is kind of like the end result. It can be because of mold toxicity, it can be because of chronic
Okay.
Lyme, it can be because of chronic Epstein-Barr, it can be because of long COVID, it can be because of like a car accident. A person has like a trauma, and then their organism gets activated and they're just having the mast cells like having like a lot of activation in a way that is causing illness.
Roger. And also just everything, all the toxins in our food, our environment, our air, water. So it makes sense. We're just bombarded.
We're bombarded. And so you
Yeah.
need to have lots and lots of different practices and lots of consciousness and lots of strategies to make yourself as resilient as possible so that you feel well.
Yeah. And non-reactive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about the significance of the white lions,
Mm,
and what message white lions have for us. It seems to be one of
mm-hmm.
your other interesting,
Right. That's how I started the book, was a trip that I made to Africa in support of conservation. And there's the white lions are a genetic anomaly. Um, they literally, are white in color. And there's an African legend that the white lions are star beings. Um,
huh,
I believe they are thought to have come from Regulus,
huh,
and that they came down to Earth um, first in the Ice Age when people were starving and they taught the people to hunt. And once the danger was past, they left and they said that they would only return if they were needed again. And
huh.
so they started being born again. I think in the 30s they started to be born again, but now there's been like more of them born. And there's a Zulu shaman, Credo Mutua, who is no longer alive, but he said that the white lions have come to warn us that either we bow to the primacy of nature or we're going to go extinct.
Hmm.
And so that's the message that they bring, that we need to, change the way that we relate to the natural world and begin to treat it with love and respect.
Hmm. Beautiful.
So I resonate with that message, and I love the white lions. Like we're now, you know, Pluto's in Aquarius, and um, I am always interested in the polarities in astrology. And Leo is the zodiac sign that is opposite Aquarius, and the symbolism of Leo, like it's so like what is called for now, like courage, and generosity and heart-centered leadership and caring about the future and the children. That's all Leo.
Hmm. Yes.
It's
And
like the
Leo's,
antidote.
I agree. Self-love.
Mhm,
I think a healthy Leo has a healthy self-love.
mhm.
They can't pass a
Right.
mirror. They can't pass a mirror. just just looks so good. But yeah, and the fact that Pluto's in Aquarius, I don't know how much you study solar astrology, but Pluto's in the house of relationships for Leos. And where it is right now, that first decan of the seventh, in my professional opinion, is our relationship to ourself first.
Mhm.
So it
Mhm.
feels like, the white lion or the lion has forgotten to love itself. It, the
Mhm.
Leo got a little too codependent on social media, praise, popularity,
Well,
celebrity.
that's the shadow. That's the shadow, Leo, right? Like being
Yeah.
so dependent on applause,
Yes.
right?
Right. And not realizing also the need for others, like the Aquarius side, the lion with the thorn in the paw, and how the lion realized how it needed the little mouse, even though it was just a mouse, like so there. I think there's that. I think in the Leos themselves, they are them kind of coming back home. I think
Mhm.
to their principles. So I'm interested to see what role Leos play. If you look at the United States presidents, I think we've had three Leo presidents.
Mhm.
Obama was one of them. It's like one of the least common presidents in the United States history of president.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting considering you got to love yourself a whole lot to run for president. Like,
Yeah. Huh.
but maybe it's because they do love themselves, they're not running. That's a possibility too.
You're right. Doesn't seem like it does them a lot of good, like they're kind of in rough shape when they finish.
You definitely are going to turn gray for sure. Uh, okay. One question just, and then I know we're getting to time here. You've been so generous with your time. Energy vampires. Do you have any advice about energy vampires? I think we're all kind of with the South Node in Libra. I think we're all really looking at relationships from an enlightened perspective for the rest of this year and then early into 2025. What can you teach us about energy vampires?
Well, I think there's some people that are really like, no matter how much therapy, like, well, first of all, I mean, another word for energy vampire is like a malignant narcissist. And
Okay, I was going to ask you that. That was my follow up. Is it the same thing?
yeah, yeah, it is the same thing. It is the
Okay.
same thing. And that's a person who really doesn't really believe that you're entitled to the same rights as they are. Like it's all about them and their needs. And you're there to provide for their needs. And if you don't, then um, there's going to be consequences. And I don't think, and some couples therapists don't really understand that it is not, the responsibility is not equal in a couple. And, when a couples therapist doesn't understand that um, one part of the couple is malignantly narcissistic, they can advise the other person to be even more accommodating. And that can
Mm.
be just very destructive. I do believe that there's certain people that, because of whatever reason, maybe has something to do with their past lives and karma and constitution and trauma in this lifetime, they are not, they're not going to be able to turn it around. And a person who's in a relationship with a person like that needs to get away from them. And
Mm.
they're not going to be able to change them. And maybe in the next lifetime, that person will be able to um, be healed. But sometimes it's just important for a person who's in a relationship like that to recognize that this situation is not going to be turned around and to save themselves.
I can't believe I'm hearing a psychiatrist talk about next lifetime. Maybe they have hope. I just have to applaud you on that. You're so unique and awesome that way. Have you know, is it that we're identifying narcissist behavior now, whereas before we didn't? Or is it me, or is there an explosion of narcissism going on in our world suddenly? And I wonder if it's just from opportunity. Like back in the old day, you had to be a Napoleon, really, or someone. So does it just trickle down to an available, like approach that
I don't
every common
know.
person can?
I don't
Do you have
know
any?
if if it's just more recognized and called out. I don't really know the answer to that.
Hmm.
But I mean, it does seem that there's an awful lot of it going on.
It's certainly the buzzword right now in most readings when we go into a toxic relationship, immediately they announce they're with a narcissist. Now I look it back, I think my father was one. Like I do see, when I understand the definition, I do see it everywhere. But it seems like it's gotten more prevalent, or maybe we're just healing and now we're calling it for what it is. Where before we just would have said an alcoholic, or we would have just called them abusive.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it might be just that we have a term for it now and we've identified certain qualities and are characterizing it that way.
Mm-hmm. So it's us waking up and calling a spade, so to speak, finally understanding. All right. Well, terrific. So as we move into this shaky time, we're in an election year. Our country disagrees with each other. We have become polarized. We have migrants
About
coming in.
everything,
Yep.
everything, no matter what it is, it's a fight.
Totally. And people are caught in the fight and they can't pass it by. They can't rise above it. It seems like, what in your perspective, working with people one-on-one, how would you recommend people navigate these times a little bit more skillfully?
Well, I come back to like spiritual practice that and self-care on multiple levels. And I like your self-love thing, like that it starts with your relationship with yourself. And that, I mean, I just heard this thing. It was like an exercise where you take a piece of paper and you make a line down the middle of it. And on the top, you write all of the things that come to you that raise your vibration. And on the bottom, you write all of the things that lower your vibration. So, I mean, you just
Mm,
know right away, like, okay, if you spend a lot of time looking at screens, your vibration gets lower. If you go out in nature and listen to the birds, your vibration gets higher. If you eat a good diet, your vibration gets higher. If you eat too much, your vibration gets lower. If,
mhm,
like there's like so many things that you can do that raise your vibration or lower your vibration. So, like, as much as possible to attend to that and to sort out the things that you can do to raise your vibration, increase your light. When you do acts of, kindness, create beauty, that raises your vibration. So, things like that, like all the different self-care, attending to diet, to getting, the right amount of sleep. I mean, the body loves routines. The more you can go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time, eat at the same time, exercise at the same time, your body will thank you for that. Um,
mm,
the more you can like just pay attention to kind of, well, again, it's like the vibrational thing, like what's like opening your heart, like to spiritualize your life, to bless your food, to create an altar in your home, um, to pray daily, to give gratitude daily, all those things.
mhm. Yeah, to raise your vibration in
Yeah.
essence from all that. And I agree with you. Spirituality does do it. And how quickly we forget. you know, like I sometimes, it's not till I'm suffering, I'm on my knees crying. I'm like, oh, I think I should pray. What did I think about that days ago? It took to that
Mm.
moment. That's beautiful. That's great advice. I'm really pleased. Thank you so much for coming here tonight. Our audience has absolutely loved everything that you have said tonight and resonated with it. Some people even posted they've already bought your book. It's Sacred Psychiatry. It sounds like it's a beautiful Bible for, pardon that expression, but for what we need to hear right now as far as what's going on. I'm curious, where are you going in your career? I mean, you're needed everywhere. What's your strategy right now?
Well, right now, like the book is just finished, like it's just been
Okay.
published in January. So
Oh,
now
okay.
I'm doing things like this, like talking with you, which by the way, I'm so honored to talk with you. I've admired you and loved your creativity. I love it when you invent words. Um,
Oh,
I just think you're very sparkly, and I I want some of like your magic to rub off on me because I find you like effervescent.
oh, well, thank
And
you.
and so anyhow, I'm promoting my book by having conversations like this one. And that's really what I'm doing. And I mean, I'm seeing my patients in my practice and I'm like I do a lot of other things. Like I'm a painter and a gardener and like I'm sort of interested in spending time doing those things again. You know, like it's been I've been working on the book for a long time and bringing it out for a long time. So
Mm, sounds great. Well, I have a psychic sense that you're going to play an important, you already do play an important role. What you've given us here is beautiful. Just the role modelship of how you're blending science and not rejecting it, but incorporating it and blending with spirituality, I think is a gift to the world. And I have a sense that you're going to play a role that serves as an icon for what we can aim for. You're a true role model. I'm really grateful I met you tonight.
thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me.
And likewise for you coming. And would you stay backstage for a few minutes? I want to talk to you about some astro gossip.
Okay. Would love to.
Okay. I'm just going to say goodbye to our subscribers for tonight.
Mhm.
We'll put you backstage and I'll catch you later. Everyone, check out her book. It sounds like to be the key to all of her wisdom, Sacred Psychiatry. She also has her own website, Judy. We'll actually put it up there because it's Judy S. That's interesting. I wonder if I have that correctly. Yeah, it is Judy S. Affirmid.com. Ah, okay. So uh, we'll put it up for you so it's easier because it's not as easy to pronounce it as to read. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I love tonight's conversation. It was so perfect and peaceful and beautiful. And I give that all to Dr. Judy's energy. She's quite a light and quite a mind, right? For where we are. I love that she is so proactive about um, pharmaceuticals and narcissists and energy vampires and prayer and these modern techniques of, what was it called? It was, ketamine. Thank you. Good thing of that. So, anyways, check out her website. We'll put it up for you. We'll put it in the chat as well. And please purchase her book. Tell people about it. I know a lot of people who watch me who are in psychiatric medicine. And I hope that you check out Judy's work because I know a lot of you have been working to blend spirituality into your Western medicine practice. And it sounds like this lady has really figured that out. So I look forward to catching up with her again sometime. We'll have to see how the book goes. All right. And what happens next for her? I kind of see her, I'll tell her backstage, but I see psychically I had a vision of her speaking at Congress or something, but I didn't say it out loud, but that's what I saw. I'm going to put it out there where she's going to be some sort of a spokesperson that way. All right, folks. Well, it's been a wonderful time together. I'm so glad we had this time together. That's what Carol Burnett, who is a Taurus, used to sing every night when she closed her show every week, that is. Our sponsor tonight is Unite the Light 2024. Let's co-create. We're bringing together a group of light workers on May 18th and May 19th in Austin, Texas. Are you here to help make the world a better place? Well, we'd like to connect with you. We'd like to become your friend. We'd like to trade phone numbers. Maybe we can work together. Maybe we can team up. Maybe we can come to agreements about coming together on the same side of things. I joke about it, but the evil people all meet once a year. Why don't the good? Like, why don't we come together? Let's hang out. It's only 2 days. It's in Austin, Texas, which is great. It'll be really warm that time of the year. You can find out and get tickets now. We have two tiers of tickets. We have a Love Plus ticket that includes an enchanted dinner that has some entertainment. And then we have a lower price ticket for people who are a little budget conscious as well. And of course, our whole staff will be there at Serious Joy. My entire company is showing up, including my business partner, Eben. It's going to be great. Just go to unitethelight.love for the tickets. Now, I'm going to release a whole website about it here in a couple of days. we're only announcing this to my subscribers right now. So I really feel like the world has a need for this. So if you think you want to come. Put your money where your mouth is. Let's hang out. Let's meet. Let's greet. Let's talk to one another and unite our light and our forces together. I do want to say that next Thursday, I will be tag team reading with Scott Cruz, psychic medium. I'm looking forward to this. We're going to do it this week. We're doing it next week. So this upcoming Thursday, I will be with Scott Cruz. His show's at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Is that correct? Yeah, I guess it is correct. I did it wrong in the first one. It's 9 Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm getting confused with mine. He's live every Thursday. A lot of our faves, a lot of our super followers here are actually at Scott's show. And if you want a tag team reading from Scott and I, we'll do it live. He's going to charge a price and then we answer the questions. It'll be a lot of fun. If you want to just have helpful coaching every day of the week, SeriousJoy.com, the most loving, accurate astrology service on the planet. You get all the mega monthlies, you get access to live shows, you get 7 coaching pieces of information a day. We also have a daily pep talk. We have a phenomenal faculty, some of the best, I think, in the world. We have some new faculty that have joined. In fact, last week we had our lunar ceremonies soul support group with Joe Zammit and Gwen English. These two ladies are our newest faculty members at Serious Joy. Joe Zammit's been with us for about 6 months doing lunar ceremonies. I'll just say it right now. Gwen English is actually my sensei. She's the woman that brought me to astrology. So Gwen is the woman that introduced me to astrology when I was 19 years old. Now I'm actually bringing her on my team as a faculty member. So it's funny how things go full circle. Both these ladies just did a special soul support group. It is now live for viewing in the Mega Monthlies. We had 3 subscribers come up and talk about their karmic trauma, and these two ladies both work together. Joe gave custom lunar ceremonies to each person. Divine. You can see how Joe puts it together and how she makes ceremony. Dr. Judy was just talking about the power of ceremony and altar, putting your intentions into practice. These two ladies both tag teamed and gave us some great stuff. So that's available right now to watch immediately if you sign up. This week, we have in our soul support group, our dodecahedron activation with Kristen Ryder. Kristen's been doing some really cutting edge work. She's going to actually speak to her work at the Unite Light conference. She's going to do an in-person sound bath and healing on Sunday morning when we open up our second day ceremonies. What she's been doing for the 40 days of past lives and karma is intermixing sacred geometry with meditation, basically visualization and sound therapy to activate the solids, I can't remember what they're called now, and to integrate past life timelines. So the platonic solids, it finally came to me. So anyways, she's doing phenomenal work. She's coming on next Wednesday. We want to talk to 3 different subscribers who are doing the dodecahedron activation, say that 5 times, and to share their stories. That will be this Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific at SeriousJoy.com. We only do cast actual subscribers to the service, but if you want to apply, just check out. We'll do an announcement, of course, on how to be on that show in our daily pep talks. All right. Sharing is caring. The most beautiful thing you can do to help us spread the word is just spread the word. Share my horoscopes on Tuesday with someone that you love. Share the Summer of Love horoscope I did with Scott Cruz with someone. Share this show. Whatever a person's ready for. I think a one-on-one suggestion is the most powerful suggestion it is. It goes much farther than any advertising money we could ever spend. So we ask that you please share us, and that's the most caring thing you can do. Some people do want to donate directly. We welcome donations. It's paypal.me/Sensei Christopher. We have a Facebook group where we allow all light workers to advertise their services. Serious Joy really does want to support all light workers. That's why we're founding Unite the Light together with some other founding members. And our Facebook club is an embodiment of that intention. You may absolutely advertise your spiritual services in the club. We also have a free human design and tarot coaching club called the Chiron Club, which you can be a part of as well. That's at seriousjoy.club. All you have to do is just be courteous and use compassion in your posting. You can follow me anywhere on social media at seriousjoy.social. That's where our link tree is. You can find access there also to some interviews I've been interviewed, where I have been a part of someone else's show, which I'm doing more and more these days. That's at SeriousJoy.social. And if you'd rather listen instead of watch, many people do on their walks or even in the shower, we're on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcast every week. I want to do special thanks to our staff, our producer, Noelle Way, our casting director, Mara Moon, our director, Sarah Lyman. Thank you for being a part of the show and directing every week. My teaching staff, Robbie Hunt, Kristen Ryder, Devin Doer, Joe Zammit, Gwen English, and Heather Exposito. And of course, we have to thank our super friends, the ones who show up every week and chat and bring so much joy and make this a fun Friday night experience. By name, Princess Coffee Bean, Jill Louise, Margot Malia, Lori Ship, Nikki Anderson, Libran Lauren, Experimental Elemental, I love that, Erica with a K, Michelle Camper, Michelle Bell, Cat Ryder, my soul brother, Daryl Blankenship. I noticed you showed up on the phone in the car. Thank you, brother. Neptune Girl, Jamar, Christine Kelly, Sydney, Iggy, and also thanks to David Palmer for showing up tonight. I appreciate that, brother. Appreciate the love. Love back to you. All right, friends, that's all we have for this week. We'll be back in 1 week when we are reinventing our Migo. Until then, I love you. Live, love, be.